Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of the Four Star Chicago Sports Podcast. We are the Halas Hall Hangover, and I'm a little hungover today because that was a disaster in the Bay for Thomas Brown's debut performance, and it does look like the Bears will continue that 1,077 days without a win on a Sunday road football game for our beloved team. I'm going to get you guys' thoughts really quick, but before we do that, I just want to remind everybody that next Monday, I know after this Sunday, it was so difficult to watch that football game, that beatdown, but hopefully we'll get a little bit of a better performance next Monday in Minnesota, and you guys come hang out with us at River Street, 102 North River Street in East Dundee, Illinois. 4 Stars will be present. We're going to be giving away a lot of great stuff, raising money for Bears Care and people who are a little less fortunate than us around the holiday season. Let's come out, enjoy some time with us. December 16th, next Monday, Bears Vikings, River Street Tavern. Boys, I'm still trying to wash off that stank from the Bay. How did you guys feel about that yesterday? Give me some thoughts. Kyle, Brandon, who wants to lead it off here?
Kyle, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, Sean, ugly, all bad. And I did something stupid, Sean. I allowed myself to get a false sense of hope for the first time this season. I think, like, legitimately, you know what I mean? Because I thought sometimes teams rally around this, this new coach. It's like these guys come out and they want to play hard for him. And that was not the case starting from drive one. We saw 2 drops from some of the most sure hands in the NFL, guys. And then Cole Kmet drops from later in the end zone. They did not come to play, players or coaches. It was bad. And this is the sad realization, guys, is most times when a head coach is fired, this is what it looks like after the fact. It's not a very good, the odds are not in Thomas Brown's favor in success. But the defense, man, I mean, God, we were like a brick wall in the red zone, and you knew they were going to suffer, but if Brock Purdy even smelled the end zone, it's a wrap, man. So it was bad, man. It was bad top to bottom. And I think more things are starting to be exposed on this Bears team that might concern us more than just our coaching hire in the offseason. I think the 8 picks that the Bears have in this draft are going to be vital to their success as well. So, yeah, Sean, just ugly. It's disappointing for Thomas Brown and for any of these coaches, a guy like Eric Washington. If the season ends that way, these guys aren't even going to be coordinators.
What's up, Bruce? How you doing? He says defense was so bad for the Bears yesterday. I concur.
Yeah. They only allowed Brock Purdy only threw 5 incompletions yesterday, boys. He went for 325, averaged 13 yards of pass for the love of Christ. I know that we all wanted Eberflus fired, but maybe there was some onus to him being there in the second half, making adjustments, especially in the red zone. What are your thoughts there, Kyle?
My thoughts are the Bears look exactly – they looked yesterday like they did a week ago against Detroit. I mean, the only difference is Matt Eberflus was defensive coordinator, and he kept Detroit in the end zone. The Detroit game should have been 31-0 at half. That's what it should have been. If you didn't have a good defensive coordinator like Matt Eberflus, it would have been 31-0 at half. Detroit got to – and then Jahmyr Gibbs fumbled on the 1-yard line. I mean, the Detroit should have been absolutely destroying the Chicago Bears. What you saw from the Chicago Bears yesterday is the same thing we've seen from the Chicago Bears all season. The only difference is Matt Eberflus is no longer a defensive coordinator. Whether you like the guy or not, you think he's capable of being head coach or not, totally different argument. But he is a good defensive coordinator. He's going to get a good job as a defensive coordinator in the NFL, 100%. He's probably going to be, I'm going to say, top 3 highly touted defensive coordinator free agents in the NFL. And you're seeing the product of them getting rid of him. It's like Brennan said, you see sometimes some of these teams have like a spark or a fire lit up under their ass after they make a coaching change. The Bears did not have that. This is just the Bears team. This is who they are. This is a losing culture that's been instilled here for years by George McCaskey. It's people, you can blame people all you want. You can say this person needs to be fired, that person needs to be fired, this person needs to be fired. But at the end of the day, it's George McCaskey is hiring the people to replace the people you're firing. Ultimately, what you're looking for as a Bears fan at this point, unless you're holding on to hope and hoping that they get lucky and some amazing GM or coach or somebody falls in their lap, what you're looking for at this point is the least worst of. I mean, at this point, they have a quarterback who's capable of winning football games. We saw them compete against Detroit. We saw them compete against Green Bay. We saw them compete against Minnesota. We saw them destroy Jacksonville. We saw them destroy Carolina. This guy is capable of winning football games. You just need to instill a winning culture. That's what the Chicago Bears are missing. That's what they're missing. You saw you guys, we've seen this in the season before. The Broncos lost a game, the Kansas City Chiefs, which they should have won. It was a 34-yard field goal that was blocked. And they responded by dropping a 40-burger in their next game and winning 3 in a row. We saw how the Bears responded to the Washington Commanders game. It was a Hail Mary, shouldn't have happened. It's bad luck. The Bears lost, and they have absolutely fallen apart since that moment. That is a losing culture. Do I believe that all the players on the team are bad and the Bears aren't capable of winning games? No, absolutely not. I think this is a competitive football team. I think a lot of teams in the NFL would be fine with DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet. I think there's a lot of teams that would be fine with having those players on their roster. This is just a losing culture. The Bears find improbable ways to lose. They just do. They've lost 6 games now where they had a 90% chance of winning. The fact that they got to the fourth quarter with a 90% chance of winning means that those are probably coaching losses, correct? So we need a new coach, and we need somebody to come into this organization, get these players to pull their heads out of their asses and start winning football games. Finishing. They need to finish. I showed you guys a stat today that said if every one-score game in the NFL, every single one-score game in the NFL had the opposite score, had the opposite result of that one score, that the Bears would be second in the NFC and the Chiefs would be last in the AFC. Football is a game of inches. The Bears need somebody who can finish football games. That's it.
Well, yeah, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. It's gone the way it's gone the way that it's gone. You know, I didn't expect the Bears to win yesterday. I didn't go into that game expecting them to win. I did expect them to be competitive. Kyle's mentioning the coaching issues that have led to these collapses in late in games, or the slow starts, and that you had to, do everything you can to get back in the game and have a chance to win. I think a lot of us thought Thomas Brown was a guy that could help this Bears team get their heads out of their asses. I think yesterday we were shown that is not who he is right now. It was his first game as a head coach, guys. 1 week to prepare as a head coach. It's a tough situation for him to be in. I didn't expect him to outcoach Kyle Shanahan going into that game. I said that very clearly, and I expected the Niners to win because of it. But it was a blowout, guys, and this team gave up, and this team had no answers. And the biggest issue and my biggest concern going into that game was the defense. Can Eric Washington maintain what this defense had been doing under Matt Eberflus? I'm glad Matt Eberflus is gone. I don't think he was a good head coach. We weren't going to keep him as our defensive coordinator. But Eric Washington needs to get his shit together and needs to get these guys playing back on that same level that they were playing on, because they've shown that they're capable of it. If they play defense like they did yesterday against the Niners, allowing those big gashing runs, allowing explosive plays, and not making any explosive plays on their own end, it's going to be a long rest of the season, and it'll be very clear, cut and dry that Thomas Brown is not the guy for this opportunity. The Bears kind of did what I expected them to do. I thought they would be more competitive. Didn't happen. Yeah. On to the next one, guys.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dustin. I didn't think it was going to be a 38-13 beatdown. I thought the Bears would be a lot more competitive, at least show some fight, but there was no fire. I mean, it was just a really bad football game. I actually started writing my notes earlier. I was just like, this sucks. That was the first thing I wrote. Like, this sucks, because it was so bad. I'm just trying to still think about it, and I can't. And I even put the score wrong. It was 38-13, not 18. So, and we do have a Monday Night Football game coming up, gentlemen. And we did actually put together a parlay for the viewers here today. And for myself, I love Chase Brown over the 76.5. This guy is absolutely killing it. He's been over this number like 5 straight weeks, and this Dallas defense is absolutely atrocious. Dead last versus the run. This guy, he had 100. It's 108 rushing and receiving. He might even hit that if this is any kind of a competitive game. It is a big number, but Chase Brown seems to be getting there every week. What part of the parlay did you have, Dustin?
It's the 4 stars, 4-leg Monday parlay. There we go. I'm just going straight money line on the Bengals. Honestly, I had such a rough week, man. The Eagles killed me in all my bets. I'm going to play it safe. That's minus 225, but it's a nice little thing to add on to this parlay. Bengals money line. I'm not messing with any points. Let's just get the win. I'm going with that.
What was yours, Kyle? I can't remember.
I just have Chase Brown anytime touchdown score, which should be pretty easy to do against the Dallas Cowboys.
Especially the Dallas Cowboys defense has looked better the last couple of weeks. Unexpectedly better. They've played some tomato cans though too. So
yeah.
No, I'm with you, Kyle. I like the bet. Chase Brown has filed 2020. Sorry, were you not finished?
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Chase Brown, his final season at Illinois, 2022, he had 13 touchdowns total as the starting running back. This guy finds ways to get in the end zone for sure. My parlay, guys, is, and I would take it any damn week moving forward, honestly, is Joe Burrow over a touchdown and a half. It's been 6 weeks since he hasn't done that. And he's had a couple of 4 and 5 touchdown games. I mean, this guy is
So Joe Burrow
playing
gets
his best. He's playing his best football, and we know he's good.
All right. So Joe Burrow, 2 touchdowns. Sean's got the over-under on rushing yards for Chase Brown at 76.5, you said?
76. Yeah, it's up 76 right now. It opened at 74.
Okay. I got the money line for the Bengals, and Kyle's got the Chase Brown anytime touchdown. So it's going to be a big Bengals night tonight. And if y'all want to pair those 4 bets together, you'll get them at basically plus 300 odds, $10 to win 30. So put it down. See how it goes.
Throw them in. Hopefully, it's a good Monday night game. On paper, it doesn't look like one because Cooper Rush has been quite awful, but you never know. You never know.
Cowboys fans think they still have a chance. So let's
Chance of
nice
what?
to put them to bed tonight.
If I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be asking for Cooper Rush's backup, man. It's ugly.
You guys want to get into this roster construction really quick? Because today there was a lot of chatter and people hating on Cole Kmet. He's a terrible blocker. What did he get called? Not against the Niners, but the previous week he got called for 2 illegal picks, drops a touchdown in the end zone this week. They're saying
2-point conversion. 2-point conversion.
Oh, it's a 2-point conversion. Sorry. Yeah. They're saying he's regressing as a player. We don't need him. I strongly disagree with that. Do you guys feel at all like sometimes when you have this losing culture, it just bubbles over into your play a little bit? And maybe that's what's happening with some of these other guys on this team right now?
I think it's hard to gauge anyone's performance right now, considering all the bad vibes around this team and how everything's falling apart. Coaching change middle of the season. But at the end of the day, Sean, these guys got to play. They got to play to show that they should be a part of this team's future. They got to make plays. They got to show themselves at least to be, the players that Cole Kmet was signed a pretty big contract for a tight end to stay with the Chicago Bears team. And you do expect better from him, whether that's a result of the offense that he's been in and his lack of targets, because we've had a lot of weeks where he has not been targeted anywhere near enough. But when he does get targeted on a 2-point conversion, he needs to catch the fucking ball, man. I mean, Cole Kmet is an average tight end. I don't think he's a top 10 tight end in this league, man. I don't think he ever was gonna be. I mean, Brock Bowers, you guys talked about that all day yesterday when we were together watching the game, that he would have been a nice draft pick for the Bears. I mean, he would have been supplanting Cole Kmet in that case, and I'd be okay with that, I guess. It just didn't seem like a need going into this season, with Cole Kmet already signed up. Cole Kmet's got to play better, man, at the end of the day. Can't have those penalties. Can't have a drop ball on a big play like that. Everybody's got to play better.
For me, with the Brock Bowers thing, I just thought Brock Bowers was so much more than just a tight end coming into the league. And I mean, he hasn't proven me wrong at all. I mean, Kyle will know I was screaming at the television, please make it Bowers, when they picked Roma Dunze. I mean, I don't think Roma Dunze is going to wind up being a bad player, but I think
a good player. He caught 2 touchdowns yesterday, guys. He got 2 touchdowns yesterday.
I still think at the end of the day, Brock Bowers is going to have a better career. That's just my personal opinion.
That touchdown that the Dunze caught in the back of the end zone with getting his 2 feet down, that's a special play that special players make. Roma Dunze is going to be a special player.
I don't hate Roma Dunze.
In regards to Cole Kmet, he's probably going to finish, guys, right around where he would have been projected. He's got 42 receptions for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. With the addition of Dunze and Allen, he was projected, I think, around 60 for 600 and like 5 touchdowns. He's like literally on the mark.
He's what I thought he was. He's exactly what, like you said, what you would expect him to be.
What do you got there, Kyle? On 85.
Oh, I believe he's a top tight end in the NFL. I just don't think he's used as a top 10 in the NFL. I mean, it took 6 weeks for the Bears to integrate Cole Kmet into their game plan, and Dustin just said, "Well, Rome Dunze had 2 touchdowns. Well, Cole Kmet's had 2 touchdown games this year, guys. Cole Kmet, when he's used and he gets targets, he generally catches them. If you take away the 2-point conversion from yesterday, Cole Kmet has some of the best hands in the NFL. If you look at his drop numbers since he's been drafted, and was for the first 7 weeks of the season had more 3rd down catches than any player in the NFL." And he was Caleb Williams' security blanket. Not only that, but he is capable of big plays. Not only is Cole Kmet, when he's being targeted, a good player, but he's capable of catching 20, 30, 40, 50-yard passes. We've seen it before. That catch against Atlanta last year, that one-handed catch, he makes plays like that all the time. I just don't think Cole Kmet's been given enough opportunity. The Bears literally went into the season making Gerald Everett their number one tight end. I mean, that was absolutely a mistake. I think the Bears admitted that after week 3 when they started to throw the ball to Cole Kmet. And when they started throwing the ball to him and using him in week 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, he was absolutely amazing. He was by far one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I think ultimately when it comes down to Cole Kmet, it comes down to how much he's used. That's the problem. And
Harris says, who's better,
Kraft or Kmet? I'd say they're very similar, Kyle.
Yeah, I agree.
Similar type players.
Well, the real question, who's
I would
better,
take Kraft though because of his age. I would take
the real
Kraft
question
because
is
of his age and his
who's
upside.
better, Kraft or Musgrave? Because that was a bust.
I mean, Musgrave has performed well when he's had the opportunity. He's been hurt, but they drafted 2 really good tight ends in that draft.
Kraft was drafted after Musgrave.
Yes, he was. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Kraft has
He's
some
a great
weeks where he
player.
don't show up on the stat sheet at all, though, guys. So
but
it's
he's a good player.
It's like
He's
you just
young.
said, though.
He'll be a part of that for the future.
When given the opportunity, NFL, when you're talking about individual players and individual performances, it all comes down to opportunity, right? I mean, if you're throwing the ball 2 times in a game, how much? I mean, look at George Kittle did against the Bears yesterday, guys. Right? Probably one of the best games we've seen George Kittle have in a long time. Correct? Go look at George Kittle's game
Kyle,
week prior.
separation
He had 1
creates
catch.
targets.
He had 1 catch. I mean, but Brennan, do you think George Kittle wasn't capable of separation last week?
George Kittle always has games. He has games where he don't do shit, and then he has games where he just
the tight end position in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's
he had 6 catches for 151 yards, no touchdowns, but he averaged 25 yards a catch against this Bears defense, guys. Yeah. Jesus.
Well, it's all about opportunity, guys.
And we said he was going to have a big day. We did say that him and Garendo would have big days.
Sean said he would have a big day. Dustin and I said he would not have a big day.
I would not have bet the over on his yards.
We were wrong.
I was very wrong.
We were wrong.
I said to Dustin before the game started, I have Purdy as a fantasy quarterback. I said, I'm worried about Purdy. He said, that Purdy's going to go be fine. And I said, as long as Kittle catches 150 yards in a
touchdown. Sean, get the applause ready, please.
You didn't get the touchdown.
No, Jennings nabbed that up. Jennings is a great player, guys.
We have a new person in the chat, guys. Trey Shy, what up, man?
What's going on, man?
Thanks
for
joining
Kellen
us,
is the best route. I don't who's Kellen?
Who's Kellen?
You mean Keenan? Keenan is the best route runner. Maybe Keenan Allen is that? Maybe he combined Keenan and Allen together and just made it.
Yeah, I think that's what Keenan Allen's built a career out of, Troy, for sure.
Please specify Trey if we're messing that up. I don't know who Kellen is, my man. Thank you for joining us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.
Please. Thank you for joining us.
Having these conversations with us.
As we talk about Cole Kmet lighting the Bears up, we had some PFF grades come out for our linebacking core yesterday. Tremaine Edmonds with another failure, a 54.
He is not a good player, guys.
You had TJ Edwards at 51. You had our boy from Wisconsin, Jack Sanborn, graded out at a 40. Guys, just so we're all clear, 60 is average in the NFL. Okay.
Sean, you got Pro Football in front of you right now. What is Tremaine Edmonds' grade the last 5 games? You got PFF in front of you.
I can pull it up. His grade for the season is 62.4.
So he's sorry, above average.
Sorry. TJ Edwards is 62.4. Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds is 56.6.
Before we reference Pro Football Focus, I really like to have somebody from Pro Football Focus on the show. I mean, you guys, you know who their highest graded player on the Bears was yesterday?
Who?
Jonathan Owens.
That
was the highest Pro Football Focus grade on the Bears.
TJ Edwards,
90.2.
Really big.
Remember that run play where Jonathan Owens went in and like we
pointed out he tried to tackle somebody. Like where does Pro Football Focus get 90.2 for Jonathan?
He just put his head down. He got the interception.
What is Roma Dunze's grade? It's got to be like 80
88. Yeah, it's got to be in the high 80s.
Was on the top for the Bears. He was up there.
But Sean wanted to talk about these linebackers and how they've had average seasons in general across the board. Right
here, my question for you guys is this another Ryan Poles miss? These are his linebackers right here. Now, we went in this, so we're just going to get this out of the way. I came into this show. We were backstage. I said there's 10 players on this team that I would keep. That would be Caleb, Swift, Sweat, I do love TJ Edwards. I think he had a bad game, but I think he's a very capable linebacker in this league.
He had
Kyler
two
Gordon,
really big plays, man. He tipped two balls back to back.
I love him, dude. I
It made
don't.
a huge impact on that game.
I would say DJ Moore, Rome, Komet, and Darnell Wright. For me, that's it. We've been hearing for a long time.
Did you say Jalen Johnson? I didn't.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson's in there. Jalen Johnson's in there. Although today, I think it was on the Bernstein show, they had callers calling in saying that Jalen Johnson isn't the guy we thought he was. Everyone's just really pissed on Edge right now.
Just out of curiosity, so you're leaving Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon off that list.
No, I
So
had
you
Kyler
said
Gordon.
Gordon.
Oh,
You
so
said
you're
Gordon. He
leaving
didn't say
Jaquan Brisker off the list. So basically, what you're saying
I'm
is
taking
Ryan
Brisker.
Post-
I like
Ryan
Byard
Post
a
know
lot.
people are going to be injured when he's drafting them. I mean, how could he possibly know Jaquan Brisker's going to have 4 concussions? Jaquan
I'm
Brisker is a
taking-
very good player. He's a very good player.
I'll explain. I'm taking Brisker up because I think his NFL career is about over.
I know,
He's
but you
one
can't-
concussion away from being
That's
done.
a possibility.
And you
That's
may
a
you may very well be correct, and maybe he shouldn't be on this roster. But can you contribute that to Ryan? Should Ryan Post be blamed because Jaquan Brisker can't stay healthy? He was a good draft pick, right? He was
No,
a good player.
I can give him Brisker.
Kevin Byard was a good
Guys,
signing,
there's
too.
skill and there's luck. We can draft the best fantasy teams, but if those guys get injured, we got to then figure out who we're plugging in place of them to still win our matchups, right? And Ryan Poles needs to still figure out who do I have as my backup. And then when your backup gets injured, which Elijah Hicks is now out of the game, that makes an impact as well.
Real quick.
The depth of this team
that-
was not ready for these injuries. No.
Yeah, this
that,
team is
that
not
play,
team.
that single play where Edwards tipped the ball and Owens just allowed the receiver to catch it anyways should have minus like 10 points from his PFF grade.
I mean, there's
Okay.
also
I'm talking about
PFF.
where he could have
Also-
intercepted it or just knocked the receiver down and he just kind of watched it happen. You
I
guys
mean, there's
remember
also
that play?
there's also a ton of players on this team we know nothing about. I mean, where are you guys at with Karana Magaji? You done with him? Should he be off this team?
I'm you know where I am. He's a guy I think should have never been drafted in the first place.
I want to
There's
see
other
more of
teams
them.
could have been on the
Braxton
field right
Jones.
now.
Was Javon
Sucks.
Dexter on your list, Sean?
Dexter wasn't on my list.
Javon
Kyle, I
Dexter
want to
is
see
not on my
Karan.
list.
I think Braxton
I like
Jones had
Dexter,
his worst
But I think you
game
can definitely
as a
upgrade
professional.
from Javon Dexter.
I think Braxton Jones had his worst day as a professional football player.
Sean, was
yesterday.
Andrew
I would
Billings
love
on
to
your list?
see Karan
Andrew Williams
Amagashi.
is not on my list.
Trey Shy has a question for us. Have we noticed that most of our receivers run their routes and give up if they don't get open? I mean, it's I'm not seeing it all the time. I feel like Roma Dunze is kind of playing his ass off every time he's out there on the field. Keenan Allen, I think, has been a consummate professional when he's out there. I mean, when your season is going this badly and you had such high hopes, like we were talking about earlier with Cole Kmet, I think it starts to impact everybody in a very negative way in terms of their effort, in terms of their energy, in terms of their focus. The focus is not in the right place right now for this entire team.
This
And
is also a very, very,
that's
very
everyone.
broad, vague question. I mean, no disrespect to Trey. We appreciate the question, but we all heard when he was called up to be the play caller, Thomas Brown, that is, for the Chicago Bears. He told Caleb Williams after that 2.5 seconds, if you can't get the ball out of your hands, you run. Just make a play, get out of the pocket and run. So I'm assuming that the receivers were probably told after that 2.5 seconds, once Caleb Williams starts getting out of that
Coming
pocket,
back.
you guys are blockers. You are now blockers. Your routes,
Or
are
you're
done.
coming
You
back
are now
if he's
blocked.
scrambling to make a pass. You're coming back towards your quarterback to show him your numbers to try to get him to be able to make
And
a
I mean,
play.
but you can't. But we've seen Caleb Williams run more since Thomas Brown became the play caller than way before. Way more
Ran
than when
27 yards
when
yesterday.
Shane Waldron, when Shane Waldron was here. So obviously that's working. That was a good call. So I have no problem with the receivers becoming blockers if that's what they're being asked to do when Caleb Williams scrambles out of the pocket. I'm totally fine with that because he has gotten us some huge first downs since he started running.
We have a new member of the chat, Philip Palmisano. Thanks for joining.
He was on Wednesday.
I've never seen him. He's new to the Halas Hall Hangover, guys.
He's doing the Halas Hall Hangover. Thanks for coming back,
Thanks for
man.
joining us.
Really appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man, we're going to shout him out on the Halas Hall Hangover. He says, any consistent winning organization builds their O-line and D-line through the draft. Exclamation points on that one. I agree. Poles tried putting together this team backwards. This is an ass-backwards organization. That's an ass-backwards approach to this season. Yes, sir.
Not so much through the draft, Philip, but a GM puts that together first, for sure. No matter how you get it, you fix that first, and that was not this team's priority. So, yeah, great comment.
And if we go over our defensive line grades, there was only one in the 60s, and that was Jacob Martin. Montez Sweat was a 50, Covert was a 46, Chris Williams a 46, Pickens a 45, Booker a 44, Taylor a 40, DeMarcus
Taylor
Walker a
sucked.
30. I mean, dude,
They got no pressure. They had
And-
one sack collectively, and they got no pressure.
So let me
besides
ask you
that
guys
sack.
then, how much of this blame? So like Tremaine Edmonds, for instance, you guys are saying he's like the worst linebacker in football.
That's where I wanted to get back to Tremaine.
So, yeah, so he had a very good season with the Bills before he came to the Bears. He had a decent end of the season last year. So you talk about Andrew Billings was a great player before he got here. You talk about all these. DeMarcus Walker was a good contributor, a part-time player before he got here. I mean, all these guys you guys are talking about were all touted. They were all. People said they were good players before they got here. So how much of these players is Ryan Poles signing the wrong players, or the Bears just have a losing culture and they're all playing poorly because they're feeding off of one another and they're feeding off the coaching staff?
It's a combination of both.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Both.
So
It
then,
can't be
how can you quantify the amount of blame that goes where? You know, like how much is on the players, how much is on Ryan Poles, how much is on the coaching?
When it comes to Tremaine Edmonds, man, I thought it was pretty clear at the time with Roquan that we needed to sign Roquan and keep him in the building. I didn't think it made sense to let him go and they got a second round pick for him. And okay, but like he was a great player, homegrown, built within your system, a guy that establishes a culture in your team that came up as a rookie throughout. He can be a leader.
Still very young too.
Yeah. It's like, and then you let him go, and then you go pay a free agent to come in to play the same position that has not been a part of your organization. I think the best teams, like Philip said, build through the draft. Guys that you draft come up through your system, get their second contract. That's when you're establishing a culture and an identity for your team when you have guys like that. So, I mean, I had a big problem with them letting Smith go at that time. I didn't like the Edmonds signing. I started to come around with him at the end of last year. Like you said, he came on strong, and I thought he would carry that into this season. Has not happened. And I think that was a mistake by Poles to take Edmonds over Smith.
Yeah,
or even if you say Edmonds and Edwards, I still think it's a mistake to take those guys over Smith.
Once again, then you have to go back to Ryan Pace, guys, because Ryan Poles didn't have his first round pick the 2 years he was here. First 2 years he was here because of Khalil Mack. So that is not Ryan Poles' fault. You could have two blue chip players on this team somewhere. It could have been a linebacker, could have been a left tackle, could have been a guard. We don't know. But Sean has been quoted saying when Ryan Poles drafts in the top 15, he hits it every time because it's an obvious choice, right? Like it's always going to be blue chip player. So then he was screwed out of two blue chip players when he got here.
Guys, there's something going on. Hold on. There's something going on with our volume here.
Someone's vacuuming in the background.
There's a noise going on here.
No, the heater turned. I just turned it off. I forgot to turn it off before the show started. It's gonna go off, and I turned it off. So sorry.
All right.
What I'm saying is, what I want to know is just for Ryan Poles, and I'm not by fan, but by no means necessarily am I like the biggest fan of Ryan Poles in the world. But I'd like to know exactly what the books looked like when Ryan Poles got here. That's what I want to know. I would like to have been sitting down with him and be like, man, how much dead cap?
He had his first round pick in his second year. You said his first 2 years. He had a first round pick in his second year. He did not have it in his first year.
I think he traded for that pick. He traded for that pick.
You said
he didn't have his first round pick in the second year. He acquired that pick from the Carolina Panthers.
Kyle, you said the words he could have.
No, he didn't acquire a first round. No, that's not true. No.
Hold on.
They had the first round pick his second year.
You said he could have a blue chip linebacker on this team if he had that pick. He had a blue chip linebacker.
Well,
that was already picked.
That's what I'm saying. So if Ryan Poles decided that Roquan Smith was an outside linebacker, he didn't want to move him in the middle, and the most important part of this scheme for Matt Eberflus, which is the coach he hired, would have been the middle linebacker position. He could have, if he traded Roquan Smith, but he had a first round pick, that could have been his plan from day one. We don't know. But now you're talking about getting in the second round. When you get to the second round, man, I think he was just taking the best available players. And we all knocked down Ryan Poles for taking Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker. They're both good football players. They just can't stay healthy. They're both really good football players. As a matter of fact, Kyler Gordon, until yesterday, might be the best player on the Bears. There's a good chance he is the best player on the Chicago Bears. Kyler Gordon.
I still say Bernard Raymond should have been drafted over one of those two guys. They had a chance to draft a left tackle.
And if you want, though, if you talk about
what's up, MS?
If you talk about Gordon and Brisker being great draft picks, it's everything that happened after that. This is why this team is where they are right now. There's no depth because you build through the draft. This guy's drafts, I'm looking at him right now. They're awful. They're awful. These players don't get. Half of them aren't even on the roster. They're gone in 2 years.
Guys,
this is why I'm still standing on the hill that if you want a guy like Ben Johnson, maybe you do pair him with the new GM
Okay,
because
Sean, now tell me your favorite GM that George McCaskey has hired since he's been the Bears owner. Who's your favorite
there
GM that he's
hasn't
hired?
been one.
Just give me one. You have to say there's least worst.
I don't
best,
have a
least
favorite
worst.
GM.
Poles
They've
has
all
been the
sucked.
best.
So
Poles
who's-
has been the best.
Poles is the best. So who is he going to hire next, Sean? Who, if he fires Ryan Poles tomorrow, who is he hiring next as the GM?
I mean,
George McCaskey.
I mean, what kind of bar are you saying Poles is the best? Because
he's the best of what
the bar is
to
really
choose
low.
from.
Okay,
Hey,
so
Justin,
he's the
Justin,
least worst of. Fine.
This
that's fine.
question is really
Who's
good
he
from
hiring?
Yeah,
Kyle.
we
next?
have a few of them. We have a few questions, guys.
Yeah.
We have a few.
Kyle Harris says, now that a winning record and playoffs are out of, and this is in the vein of what we're talking about, guys. So this is not taking us off topic. Now that a winning record and playoffs are out of the question, if you are Poles, what's your number one priority going forward this season and into next? For me,
Caleb Williams. Caleb
head
Williams.
coach. No, Caleb Williams. I have.
head coach.
It's the head coach. It's the head coach that I'm going to pair with Caleb Williams.
For
That's
the
my
remainder
biggest
of this
priority.
season, it's Caleb Williams. Beyond that, it's finding a
Yeah, no. I mean, even going forward into this season,
Well,
I'm still looking for my head coach.
Is he asking though? Is he asking outside of the head coach? Because I think the head coach is the obvious.
No, I think he's asking outside.
Obvious.
Of Caleb Williams. I think that's what outside of Caleb Williams. That's what
It's the head coach, guys. It's the head coach, and it's building your offensive line. Kyle brought this up a couple of weeks ago. The transformation that Poles made on that KC offensive line in 1 year, that's what we need to see this year from the Bears if we want to be competitive next year. We need to see him turn over this entire offensive line, basically, and put capable players out there because Braxton Jones ain't it. Tevin Jenkins ain't it. Coleman Shelton certainly fucking ain't it. And whoever we're putting that right guard today or tomorrow or yesterday, that person is not it either. So we got a lot of building to do on the offensive line.
I'll just
I
go
didn't
on.
tell you guys, I'm the right guard this week, guys.
I'm going to go on record and saying, based on what I've seen so far, and I hope he proves me wrong. If he does stay, I don't have the utmost confidence in Ryan Poles.
He hasn't earned it.
His analysis of players and bringing the right people in because everyone he's picked. I mean, okay, Braxton Jones was good. Coleman Shelton's turning it around up until yesterday because Coleman Shelton had a 56. So he was not good yesterday.
We're going to go back
What
to that
is this
question.
referring to?
We're going to go back to the
This-
question.
Hold on, Zach
skipped
said,
that, man.
sorry, I'm late. Not sure if you guys mentioned Jalen Johnson's business decision on the Garendo
Not
touchdown.
going to make the tackle. He just kind of,
He just
Johnson.
I wasn't okay. So he just kind
Yeah,
of
we were all in Sean's garage yesterday, partaking a little bit and having a little fun. So we weren't as focused on the game as we normally are, I think. But no, Jalen Johnson just he made that business decision, and guys are going to keep doing that for the rest of the season, guys. Keep looking for that because no one believes in what this team is selling them. No one believes that this team is going to be competitive. So guys are going to be making decisions like that a lot for the rest of this season. This question here from Antmass: would you cut your loss with Poles and keep Ian Cunningham? This is something that's an interesting thing to talk about because Ian Cunningham is a guy that's going to get a job with someone, right?
Yeah.
That's going to happen eventually for Ian Cunningham, unless he's just completely tarnished by this Bears experience.
Well,
But
wasn't there
Cunningham be that option?
which
I was
happens
gonna
a
say,
lot.
Wasn't there some inside word that Cunningham is the actual person that's in Poles' ears and making these
Oh,
moves?
of course, he's his lieutenant for
And-
Well,
sure.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because
He's consigliere.
ultimately, if it's not even. This is not like me doing deep research. Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham are best friends, and if you fire Ryan Poles, Cunningham's leaving. I can almost guarantee that. Now we could talk about what would happen if he didn't decide to leave and stay the GM. I mean, Sean just said they're making picks together. So if you don't like Ryan Poles, odds are you probably don't like Ian Cunningham.
It's like Biden and Kamala. It's like that's the same thing, right?
Yes, and
Kamala, Dustin. Don't be
here's
racist.
the question I have for everybody as Bears fans, and that
Harris.
goes for the chat as well.
Kyle Harris.
If the Bears decide to eat the last year of Ryan Poles' contract as well, so they'd be eating money from Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus for this now. Do you have faith in the Chicago Bears? Is it like, or are you in the position where you're like, man, I know for a fact Ryan Poles stinks. If the Bears fired him and they hired a new GM, they would nail that GM hire and we would be set up to succeed for the next 15 years.
The question is, do you guys have faith in Ryan Poles being the person that picks your next head coach? That is the question that's going to.
No, the question is what I asked. Do you have faith in the McCaskey's hiring a new GM if Ryan Poles gets fired?
No.
I don't have
No.
faith in anything about this team making any
No,
decisions.
yeah, there's
I don't
no
have faith in them
There's
hiring
no
a head
faith
coach.
left
No,
for anything.
all gone.
And
Kyle, I'll be honest. The Bears have to back into a great GM because I mean, I thought Poles was going to be it. Actually, I really did. I
guys,
don't see it. I don't see it.
David Kaplan said today this organization will only ever hire leaders who don't have strong personalities. Wrap
That
your
clash with
head
them.
around that statement.
You,
When
do
you are
think Foles
looking
doesn't
That's
have
a
for a
speculative
leader,
statement, just like any statement we would make here.
that's about as Bearsy as it. When you are looking for a leader of 53 grown, aggressive men, you're looking for somebody without a strong personality.
I
That
don't,
is about the worst recipe
but
for
I
a
don't agree
winning
with that
football
about
team.
Poles. I think Poles does have a strong, I
I'm talking
think
about
he's,
the coach. They
I'll
don't
make
want a
this point.
coach
oh, the
Okay,
coach.
but
that
Okay,
has
sorry.
a strong personality.
I'll make this point about polls, guys. Right,
So I have no faith. Sorry.
we've all said that. Well, except for Sean. Sean's been on board for firing polls this entire season, basically. No, I'm not taking that away from you, Sean. I know that's your position. We've all said he's going to get a shot at this. He's going to get a shot to
He's
pick his
probably
next
going
head coach.
to.
We've all said that this roster has been good enough, that the coaching was not good enough. Yesterday, we changed the coaching, kept the same roster. Worse results than we've had before. This roster did not look very good yesterday. If this roster continues to look like this, if this talent continues to perform the way it's performing for the rest of the season, there's a very real chance Ryan Poles loses his job at the end of the season. That chance exists.
So tell me the difference between the Bears versus the Packers and Vikings versus the Bears versus the Lions first half and the Niners yesterday. Why are they falling off so much from game to game? Why is it so different from a game to game basis?
Well, no, but Kyle, is this roster starting to have more is this roster starting to have more Ryan holes?
I mean, are you including Jaquan Brisker with the games Kyler Gordon missed?
Well, yeah, I'm considering
Andrew Billings
safety. You
being
have to
gone? Are you
address.
considering
You have to. Yes,
Montez Sweat is playing on one
you
foot?
have to
Considering all that
address
stuff?
safety.
We're just talking about like in general.
You have to get a
Just
safety.
in general, they looked worse yesterday than they've looked all season.
They did.
So was that probably due to the fact that Matt Eberflus is a good defensive coordinator, right? Part of that was probably due to that. I mean, the Niners scored 38 points. That's more than the Bears have allowed since last year, September 24th, 2023 against the Chiefs, 41-10. Why?
Let me ask you this, Kyle.
Why did the Bears allow the second they fired their defensive coach? Why did they allow more points to the 49ers than any other team in the
Eric Washington
conversation,
year, right?
Yeah.
Did the players that you
and
guys
Thomas Brown, yes.
Thomas Brown is not going to be able to put his hands on this defense. He's going to have enough on his plate just trying to continue to run this offense and be the head coach. Eric Washington is going to be in control of this defense, guys. I would hope Thomas Brown can maybe delegate, but I don't think Thomas Brown even knows what he's talking about when he goes to talk to Eric Washington about defense.
If you believe that,
here's the
believe that, which is
question in
fine.
Sean's defense.
If you believe that, do you honestly believe that he's like he has no idea what he's doing? There's no way he can have anything to do with the defense. That he should be even considered to be the Bears head coach?
The way it's looking right now, no sir. It's not looking good.
Do you guys think? Let me ask you this: 13 weeks into this season, we have some young players on this football team. Ryan Poles drafted a lot of them. Have the guys that you expected to make major strides this season done so? Gervon Dexter is not going to be what I hoped he could be. I can say that today.
Gervon Dexter is a very good player.
There's a lot of players on this roster that the potential ceiling wasn't reached, and that.
Well, what was the ceiling? He was a late second round pick, Brian. What was the ceiling? He was a late second round pick. What did you expect from Gervon Dexter? He was a late second round pick. So the second last pick
to pass Jalen Carter because you felt like you had him in your pocket. I expect him to be something a lot.
Well, you can't compare. It's not fair to compare Gervon Dexter to Jalen Carter. That's not fair to Gervon Dexter. It's not Gervon Dexter's fault that the Bears passed up on Jalen Carter.
That's not fair to Gervon Dexter, but it's fair to Ryan Poles because
fine. But how you guys are talking about Gervon Dexter like he's not a good football player? Convince me he's not a good football player.
Really quick, Darnell Wright was our second highest rated player yesterday. He allowed no pressures for I think the third week in a row. He's starting to come around, boys.
What do you mean at 21 years old? You look like a right tackle?
Exactly.
I like this comment from Atmas. Brown took the weekend off after getting the interim head coach job to spend with his family and had 5 days to plan. Is that acceptable? That stood out to me when he did his press conference, how he talked about how he went back home to Carolina for the weekend to be with his family. Hadn't seen him in months. He said, I can understand it because I'm a family man too. We're all family men to an extent, right? So like you can understand that, but you're in the middle of the season. You just took over the biggest opportunity you're going to have in your life. Maybe you fly your family in.
Right, I agree.
I don't know if it is acceptable, man. It don't look good after the results of that game.
That's a really good comment.
What exactly is he comment? Does he have a problem with though? I'm confused.
The fact that he instead of spending that time working on his job, preparing the game,
to celebrate for his promotion.
Well, so we could say for 100% that when he went home, he wasn't like hanging out with the kids until 8 o'clock and then working on a game plan from 8 till midnight, even though he was in a different state?
Kyle, it's
He
just
wasn't
the
with the
routine.
team.
Was it a good time? Good time.
I mean, the team's not in the building, so there's no being in the building's not going to do anything because the team's not there. They all get the days
I call
off
my
together.
coaches in, and
They get the weekend
off. I do. I get with my coaches that whole weekend. If everybody's going to approach differently.
Can you do that on a Zoom meeting?
And again, I can't
guess
hold
you
it
could.
against Thomas Brown for going to see his family, but I don't know that I would have done it in that situation.
I probably would have not. No way.
Zach Lipsy says,
I don't think that was going to save Thomas Brown, guys, but it's a good point. I just don't think that.
Here,
it's a lot
you
for
wanna know
Thomas
the
Brown
truth?
to have to figure out.
Kyle Shanahan went to his team and said, hey, we need to win this to stay in the playoff hunt. We're a better team. Let's get out there and let's do it. And that's exactly what happened. They punched the Bears in the face, punched them in the gut, and the Bears had no reaction and no comeback. Plain and simple.
And that team was in a Super Bowl last year too.
Yeah, I mean, this is and for all the injuries that they had, they still had some pretty damn good players out there on the field too.
That's a deep team, guys.
Sort of the Bears, guys.
Zach
Hey,
Lipsy
but
says
here at the same time, this is what I'm talking about with Ryan Poles. If you had the depth that the
Depth
Niners
is not
had,
there yet. No, we do not have the depth that the Niners have.
exactly.
I mean,
in
but
3
that's-
years
that's
now,
what-
he
that's what I'm
has
talking
not
about, though.
brought
Like,
this
what depth
here.
are you? So, like, you'd rather have Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall than DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Roman Dunze?
I just mean their
When they're
backups
backing-
have
when
been
those
ready
are
to
my
play all
backup,
year.
absolutely.
You'd rather have
Are you
Isaac? You'd rather have Isaac Rendo starting than DeAndre Swift?
Would I rather have
well,
Jennings?
who would have
be the
played
guy-
if DeAndre Swift didn't
Kyle.
start? Kyle?
Would you
But
rather
Sean,
have Juwan
depth
Jennings
players.
or Tyler?
Sean, you
Scott?
said the Niners still had some pretty damn good talent on the fields. The Bears
They
did too.
absolutely
The
did.
Bears did too. They
Right,
did
but
too.
if Kyle,
They
Kyle,
did.
let's say
They
DJ
did.
Moore.
Yeah, but
Let's say
Ryan
DJ Moore and
Poles-
Keenan Allen
Ryan
is
the
Poles-
Niners were
Ryan
overcoming.
Poles put that talent on the field. Roma
Let's say DJ Moore.
DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, Caleb Williams. Ryan Poles brought all those guys to the Chicago
He
Bears.
also put a shit offensive line and a shit
Okay,
defensive
so
line out there. That was
if you-
the biggest problem in the
but
football
Sean, he
game.
signed a
When you look
4-year
at the grade.
contract. He signed a 4-year
Yeah, it
contract.
was.
So if in that 4-year contract, the contract
It's usually
originally
the key to any
originally he was given, the Bears gave him a 4-year contract. If he fixes that offensive line this year, and in 4 years he addressed receivers, running back, tight end, offensive line, quarterback, did Ryan Poles do his job?
well,
And the
here-
He
4-year
still did
contract-
it backwards, Kyle.
Hey,
He
Kyle.
still did it
Okay,
backwards.
which we've
It's
already
been-
talked about. Yeah, we've already
it's
talked
been
about it.
three-
it's
over
been
a
3
year now.
years.
We've talked about that.
It's
Zach
been 3
Lipsy,
years.
Zach Lipsy says he'd fire Poles, but he thinks the Bears are going to keep him and kind of make Kevin Warren a silent GM where all decisions go through him. I'll say this: if they do that, I don't want no part of that either. That sounds so Bearsy. I don't.
No, he's not the guy. You fire him. If he's not the
Warren's
guy,
Yeah, you
you
might as well
fire him.
fire him at that
Kevin
point.
Warren's not going to make personnel decisions, guys.
Why would
Cam has
Kevin
to-
Warren? Why would Kevin
He has-
Warren
he has no
take on
football
Ryan
background.
Poles' job instead of firing Ryan Poles and getting a guy who can do
Everybody
his
likes
job?
the honey bears in this chat.
You don't take Zach. Kevin Warren is not going to take on the responsibility of the GM as opposed to just firing a guy and hiring somebody who can do it for him.
Can I
I
That's
would
a
hope so.
terrible way
Real
to
do
lead.
it the other way, that way.
Real quick,
then-
I just want to ask all three of you guys this, and please, every one of you answer your own time. Honestly, sincerely, don't think about your passion from the Bears game yesterday and watching them lose and being heated and upset. Think about this logically. Do you guys believe that with we add 3 interior offensive linemen, we have there's $80 million to spend next year and 8 picks. Say we had 3 good offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen. You keep Braxton Jones. I know he's not the best left tackle.
No,
in football.
replace
hell no,
Braxton
you
Jones.
don't. Hell
Fine,
no, you don't.
Fine. Then keep Tevin Jenkins. Replace Braxton Jones, the
Replace all
center,
of them.
and the right guard. You may not be able to. So say you replace 3
No,
of them.
you get
So
rid of Braxton
that would-
Jones
you guys,
first. Kyle,
wait, just let me
first.
finish the question. That's 60% of your offensive line you'd be replacing this offseason. 60%. Even without, do you guys believe that the Chicago Bears, the offense that's on the field right now, is our competitive football team?
Without
Do you-
the offensive, what?
Justin, do you believe the Bears should have won more games than 4 of the games this year?
Fuck
with the
yes.
roster
Yes.
they have.
I-
With the
I think
roster
they're-
they put on the
I've
field
said
every
this.
Sunday.
Kyle, I've said this going into this week. I've said it for the last couple. This is a more talented roster than what they have shown on the field. They do have talent on this roster that I would expect them to be performing better, and I did place that on coaching. Now, we just saw yesterday that coaching is still a problem, and the players were a problem too, Kyle. So it comes down to the depth. Because players were DJ Moore dropping ball, Keenan Allen dropping
Yes,
those were big plays
Guys, that's
that
what I'm talking about.
affected the performance of the game.
Guys,
But this is a
Kyle,
talented roster. If you get an offensive line, I expect them to compete next year. I
but
expect.
guys, the question is, we can beat up Ryan Poles for his roster. We can praise Ryan Poles for his roster. The question
Sean,
is,
get the clap.
is Ryan Poles the guy who you want to hire your head coach? He retained Matt Eberflus. That has to matter to you. Do you want Ryan Poles to
for
be
joining
the
us.
guy who hires your next head coach? That's the question. Do you trust
You're
Ryan
making that
Poles
very
to
black and
hire a
white.
head coach?
You're
That's
making
the
that very
most
black and
important
white.
question.
Two weeks ago, I was the only one on this podcast who said I did not want Thomas Brown to even be considered to be the head coach for the
Forget
Chicago
the
Bears.
money
And
handling.
you guys,
forget
and
the
you guys,
roster.
and you guys said he should be given a chance. That guy was hired by Matt Eberflus and is using Shane Waldron's playbook.
Hey, Kyle. I never said Thomas Brown should be the head coach of the Bears, dude.
Thomas Brown.
What I'm
do you guys
asking you
think-
is,
what do you
what
think
I'm
the
asking
odds
you
are
is
that
the roster that Ryan Poles has put together and the money handling he's done, the cap that he's flipped, how important is that over the fact that he retained a head coach that just derailed this whole thing, the whole
could be
process where you
the
do it all
decision
in
that
line?
breaks his
Like
career.
Ben Johnson wants alignment because this is what happens
So, Bernard, I'm
when
saying that's-
organizations do things like this. You
Yes.
get rid of the coach when you draft the quarterback. That's
That's-
the rule of thumb.
Vernon, that's very black and white, though. That's what I'm saying. You're making that very. There's
Yeah,
that's such a
and
broad
one of them
spectrum
wins
question,
more
right?
often than the other,
There's
black or white.
so
I
much
don't
you
know.
can talk about. Like you just said that you guys all three of you just gave Ryan Poles credit for putting together a competitive roster. If the Bears fire Ryan Poles and George McCaskey, who's going to, hires a new GM, and that's who's going to hire a new GM, George McCaskey, is he worse than? What are the odds he's worse than Ryan Poles?
Kevin Warren.
Why wouldn't it
would
be
hire
Kevin
GM.
Warren? Why wouldn't it be Kevin
Who hired Kevin Warren?
Warren? Why wouldn't it be
George
Kevin Warren?
McCaskey.
I hate
George
to tell you
McCaskey hired
guys,
Kevin Warren.
But if Kevin Warren has anything to do with any kind of roster,
Yeah, he should not be
anything,
hiring
he
anything.
should not.
He's
His
not a football
his
guy.
background is in finance. Go look
He's
at
a
his
lawyer.
resume.
Yeah,
He
I
doesn't
understand
build
that.
rosters.
Was he not at the forefront of the press conference when it came to
He's-
our
yes,
next
because
head
he's
coaching
the-
decision?
It-
Guys,
he's
I
the-
asked, hey guys,
He's
I
the
asked,
buffer
I asked-
between the
I
fan
asked this
base and the
entire
Bears. That's
panel
exactly
a
what
really
he is.
important question, and nobody's answered it.
Ask it
Do
again,
you
Frank.
trust Ryan Poles
No.
to be the person
No.
who hires the next head coach
No.
of the Chicago Bears?
Okay, Vernon,
That's
do you
what's
trust?
most
Do you
important.
if Ryan Post gets fired and they hire a new GM, do you trust the GM the Bears, Kevin Warren, George McCaskey put in place to hire the next
Well,
coach of
let's
the
answer
Chicago
the
Bears?
first
No.
question first, because
Okay,
that's
no.
more important.
Listen,
It's
there's
no to
no way
all
to
the
answer
above.
that second question because we don't know who that fucking GM would be. So
don't know-
there's no way to answer that.
And there's
second
no,
question.
and you don't know who the coach of Ryan Post is going to. You have
When
no
it
idea.
comes
Who he's
to
gonna pick.
but
the
we
question-
have a
the question-
resume for Ryan Poles in terms of what he's done, what he hasn't done to judge him off of, to base how we think he's performed off of. He did retain Matt Eberflus when we were all screaming that he shouldn't.
Yes.
That will be a
Listen,
decision
that's what I'm
that
saying,
could
but
break
it
his
comes down,
entire
like,
career.
I get it, but
So
it's
how
like,
do we trust him to make the next decision if he chose to keep Eberflus
I understand,
this
but
year
you guys
with the coaching
can't-
talent that
you
was
also
available?
can't pick and choose. Like for instance, I watch your
No,
solo.
it's
show,
very
right?
clear. You're talking
You're
about something that we don't have any basis for.
But Justin,
versus
I watched
something
your
we
solo
do.
show, and you said you like Thomas Brown, and you just think he deserves an interview. He was hired by Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus was like, "I
Thomas
think
Brown
this guy is awesome.
Thomas
I think
Brown
this guy is
still has
great."
more time
Matt
here.
Eberflus made
Listen,
that hire. Matt
Thomas
Eberflus.
Brown had a. Let me say this: Thomas Brown had an awful game yesterday. He looked overwhelmed at multiple points. He looked like it was. He should be overwhelmed. He should be in over his head. Anybody would be. I will give Thomas Brown more time to see what he has. I'm not ready to throw Thomas Brown
And
out with the
Caleb
baby.
How
still
he
looks
bounced
okay.
back.
And Caleb still looks okay.
You guys,
Thomas Brown's just got to keep that thing going.
if you guys,
Caleb
I-
Williams
I'll say
needs to
this.
keep throwing touchdowns and not throwing
Maybe,
interceptions.
maybe I was a little drunk yesterday, but Caleb Williams did not look good yesterday.
I mean, he had like
He had
5 incompletions,
He,
and
he had a
4 of them were drops.
yeah,
he
I was
made
just saying
really
earlier. You
bad
guys, he had the
decisions in
same.
the
He had the
pocket.
same. He had the same amount of incompletions as Brock Purdy. He had the exact same amount of incompletions as
But
Brock
He
Purdy.
also
more
took-
drops.
He just had a lot less completions though.
just,
too.
just,
So
just
that
so
makes
we're
a difference.
just so
More
we're
drops.
clear. Just so we're clear, he had 9. What was it? 9 blitz packages. He was sacked on 6 of them.
Oh, he held the ball too long for sure.
Yes, he did not have a good game yesterday.
No, he
That's
did
all
not.
I'm saying.
And this whole
Compared to
first
what
half-
he's done, yesterday was shit for Caleb Williams.
But we're
And this
talking about
whole first
Thomas
half
Brown, and
is-
Thomas Brown has made a good impact over Caleb Williams. There's no argument.
But can I throw this in really quick? That was Caleb Williams' first fumble in 378 dropbacks,
That's pretty
Well,
damn
being-
good, Sean.
while being sacked 58 times. He still has not thrown an interception. either.
Yeah, that's
the most for a Bears quarterback since in the Super Bowl
It's,
era,
it's
right?
not about the turnovers. It's about where he was as a player yesterday. He was fundamentally not as strong as he has been in previous weeks against the Niners. I'm not saying he's going to suck and his career is over. I'm saying yesterday he was not good. Caleb
Why?
Williams.
Why?
Did you watch him?
Why?
He wasn't
I mean,
comfortable.
Well,
He wasn't
the
comfortable.
offensive line
He
was
didn't put-
egregious.
Guys, did
Yeah,
anybody
but you
watch?
have to get rid of the ball. You can't hold the ball. You can't take those sacks. It's been 13 weeks and he still hasn't learned that. He took 6 sacks again. Get the fucking ball out of your hand.
Well,
if you
he didn't
have
take
5
6 sacks.
seconds,
Yeah, Sean.
He
Sean,
was
some of
sacked
those-
7 times.
Sean,
He
some of
took
those-
like 3 of
Braxton
them.
Jones
some of
got
those
blocked into
sacks
his
were
lap
not
on the
Caleb
first.
Williams' fault.
He took
man.
3 of them. I'd say he took 3 of them. He took
Braxton-
7 total. I
Braxton
think 3 of them
Jones-
were on him.
Braxton Jones got blocked into his lap
Guys,
on the first sack of the game.
The biggest issue with this Bears team is that they are not coming to the field ready to play in the first half.
No. they're not.
In the first half, they are getting destroyed, and then
Dropping
it's too much
passes.
for them to overcome in the second half when they're finally getting their shit together. I don't know if you guys watched the press conferences for Caleb and Thomas Brown, but they were both asked about those offensive struggles in the first half of these games, and they both answered, if we had the answer, we would have fixed it by now. That was their answer, guys. So that's the answer that you're getting from your quarterback and your head coach.
It's a real
about
answer.
What
It's genuine.
It's a legitimate answer, but it's not a confidence-inspiring answer.
transparent.
Your job is to find the answer.
Well,
That's
Dustin,
your
what
job.
do you think? Dustin, why do you think the Bears aren't coming in prepared? Your best answer.
That's a really good question.
It's a hard one to answer.
It
But
really is.
I think it comes down to, honestly, the negative plays, guys. Once they'll start out with a decent run like they did yesterday a couple times on a couple drives with DeAndre Swift, and then they'll go to drop back and Caleb takes a sack, and then their whole rhythm is just done.
Or somebody
you cannot
drops
take the negative plays,
drops a
getting
bread
behind the
basket.
sticks. That's what I'd be focusing on if I was the Bears. How do I stay in 3rd and short? How do I get these 2, 3, and the drops don't help, like you said, Brandon. But how do I get myself to 3rd and 4 or less? That's my biggest concern, and I'm sure that they're thinking about those things, but you got to avoid the negative plays. Caleb Williams was doing too much of the big, deep dropbacks. When he was performing well, guys, in this offense, it was quick steps, 3-step drop back, and getting rid of the fucking ball.
And
He was
people
not
were
doing that
helping
yesterday.
him.
And that
His
was not a part
teammates
of the
were
game
helping
plan.
him.
You can see the difference when that is their game plan versus when it is not. They're trying to make big plays downfield, and it's biting them in the ass because this offensive line sucks. And they get
And his
behind.
teammates ain't helping him out. He's a rookie quarterback, guys. 13 weeks in or not, you still got to catch those passes. You got to help this guy out. Got to help him
You guys
feel like
also-
he can succeed.
Well, when it comes to the coaching aspect of it, it bleeds into the player development, it bleeds into performance, it bleeds into the meeting rooms, etc. I love this quote here about the Bears. It says, a poor chef can make a bad meal with solid to good ingredients. I agree, but the Bears can't make shit out of shit. They're just awful in every aspect from top to bottom. There's nothing that's really good about this team, and it all starts at the top.
And you hear people saying they want Ryan or Kevin Warren to hire a GM. You guys, the accountant in a restaurant doesn't go cook the food.
Right.
You don't go cook the food. Kevin Warren, go look at his. He has as great as his resume is. He's done a lot of good things. He knows nothing about the ins and outs of football.
His resume is financial.
Doesn't know anything about that coaching.
Ooh,
nothing.
guys.
So Kevin Warren has no business hiring a GM for the Chicago. It's going to be George.
I agree.
I love George McCaskey. Don't know what the fuck he's doing either. So,
so maybe keeping Ryan Poles is your best option.
Zach Lipsy says, and I love this comment.
I don't really quick. I don't disagree with that, Kyle, because if you start to look at, we're going to hire someone else, and we end up with the Ryan Pace, and we got rid of Poles. Now we're back behind the 8 ball again. So
I agree.
I think the Bears don't study their opponents as much as they should be. Other teams know tendencies the Bears players have that they don't even realize they have. Preparation is key to success. The Bears don't seem to self-scout as well as other teams in the league. Like they don't. When Cairo Santos got that kick blocked, and everybody was saying we knew we could get a block on them, and Matt Eberflus really had no idea about what they were even talking about. It's like the self-scouting is super important, so you can find your deficiencies and try to fix them going into a game where a team has already identified those things. I love that comment.
We've talked about this. The Bear, what he's talking about is adapting, changing, becoming better. Yeah. Like we said, why do the Bears have to wait till the halftime to make adjustments to what the team's doing, and all of a sudden they come out in the second half and look great? We've talked about this for the whole season, guys. The Bears are not good at making adjustments. The Bears are not good at problems. They're not good at playing to the strengths or deficiencies of certain player groups. They're not. They never have. They have not been for the last 3 years.
Well, that's not true because they have. They made this offensive line look better with the offense they were calling against
for
the
2
Packers,
days, for 2
against
weeks,
the Lions, against the Vikings, against all 3 of those teams. They had the quick passing game going, and it was successful. It was successful. They made that offensive line look better than it was. Look at those
And
grades.
they
of that
kept
offensive line.
and they didn't
The
give
thing
up
is,
on.
you have to
They
be
didn't look
very.
good against the Lions in the first half. You can't just pick and choose quarters out.
Yeah, they did not look good against the Lions.
They had like 4 yards against the Lions in the first half.
And yesterday it was like 320 yards to 5. They were demolished. Okay, but you have to. My point is, you have to be very honest with yourself in order to self-scout in that way. And I wonder if the Bears have a problem being that honest with themselves because they think they're better than they are, or they don't want to admit
very well.
That could be killing this Bears team in this season. So I love that comment by Zach Lipsy.
And once again, this team resorts back to just quitting on running the ball.
14 times they ran it with DeAndre Swift.
Why is every coach on this team lose sight of what's been successful?
For your offensive line,
to win football games, they were running the ball, and they just don't do it.
Well, you wonder how much of the DeAndre Swift injury had to do with that, Brandon? How much was DeAndre Swift 100%? Probably not.
Or do you think 60%? Or do you think Thomas Brown taking over?
We don't know.
Did Thomas Brown taking over as a head coach impact how he's approaching a game? Did it affect him calling? Is he now abandoning the run and going to Caleb Williams the same as Waldron did before him because he's now got too much on his plate?
I was going to say the offensive game plan looked a lot different than the previous 3 weeks, and it was not
even close.
Not even close. It was ugly.
You should have no bearing on whether or not they run the ball. I mean, you think that the Niners are happy that they're missing Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey? No, but they still ran the ball 25 times.
Okay, but who was going to run the ball for the Bears? Homer got hurt. Homer got hurt in that game too. So
Sean said in the first drive of the game, why are we not seeing Darrington Evans over Travis Homer? Why are we not seeing this guy? And you guys, if you go look back at Darrington Evans on the Bears, he actually played pretty well.
He was stud, dude. He's more dynamic of a running back than Travis Homer. We all know what Travis Homer is, and it's not
Travis Homer sucks.
Here, stick around because we got to talk about Jaden Reed versus Jordan Addison at some point on the show.
Oh yeah.
Listen, that's not aged well.
The Bears abandoned the run yesterday. It was very clear, very noticeable. Now they didn't really have a choice yesterday, man. They were down 24-0 going into the second half, guys. You can't run the football anymore. You're done. Nope. You're fucked.
And they did, and they came out in the first drive in the second half, and they did run, and they looked good, and they scored a touchdown, but it took up 7 minutes of the game.
Yeah, exactly. They would have done that 2 more times. They would have still been out of that game.
I said that. I said
Yep.
that to Dustin while it was happening. I'm like, yeah, they just scored, but it took 9 minutes in the first half, or the first 9 minutes of the third quarter for them to score. So this is not going to do it. This is not going to make. They have to score a touchdown.
I just hate to say it. The Niners are an upper echelon organization, and it should just show you with even being banged up.
Hey guys, real quick,
everybody in the Bears are away from being or having a winning culture, because you can tell that gap was huge yesterday. And everyone thought, Bears are going to be in this game because of all these injuries. San Francisco said, yeah, watch this. Hold my beer.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, guys. I think some of the Bears players are probably better than you guys are giving them credit for. They're just playing for a team in a losing culture. Like, I don't think anybody in the world besides the Niners when they drafted him or undrafted free agent were like, this Isaac Rendo guy is going to step in and be the next Christian. Nobody thought that. It's the same as like nobody thinks Roshan Johnson's going to be better than DeAndre Swift. But guys, injuries happen in football. Yeah, and you have to step up and play the game. The Bears just have a losing culture. They're a losing football.
When you think about it, Brandon Ayuk gets hurt, doesn't sign at the beginning of the year. Here comes Juwan Jennings. He steps onto the field, looks like a bona fide number one. Yes. Who's your number 4 wide receiver?
Yes,
this
Sean.
is what I'm talking about.
I think
drafting talent.
Sean, I think Roshan Johnson could look very good on the 49ers. Very good. He doesn't look good on the Bears, but I think he would look really good on the 49ers. I don't know why.
I don't think Roshan Johnson's ever been given a fair shake.
Losing culture, yes.
Guys, if you're watching, if you trust Ryan Poles to hire your next head coach, hit the like button below.
Yeah, and also leave a comment as to why you do or why you don't trust. If you don't trust Ryan Poles, hit that like button still and leave a comment.
Yeah, Brian, you should say don't trust. Right?
Guys, still hit the like button whether or not you like. Or you think
let me
Ryan
ask you guys this.
Leave a comment.
You guys all want to keep Ryan Poles. Would it be fair to say you 3 want to keep Ryan Poles?
Yeah, but can I real quick, just 2 seconds? The reason why, Sean, I don't love Ryan Poles. I don't think Ryan Poles is near the top.
That's fine, but you guys want to keep.
I think he's what the Bears are going to do after him, what they've done before him. He's probably the least worst stuff. I think this is the most competitive Bears team we've seen in 10 years. That's what I think. That's right.
Well,
I think
we were-
this is
Okay,
kind
but
of-
that logic is flawed as fuck. Let's just
were-
acknowledge that.
That's the logic of being a Bears fan who has George McCaskey as the owner of the football team and Kevin Warren is the president of football operations.
We got to
That's
keep
the
this guy
logic.
in charge because we don't trust ourselves to be able to put anyone that's minutely better than him in charge after we've let go of him.
Well, let's go look at our past 6
GMs.
GMs. Let's go look at the GMs that George McCaskey's hired. Let's look at that's all you could do, right? All you could do is assess the GMs that George McCaskey's hired and try to guess what he's going to put in place of Ryan Poles when he leaves. That's all you can do. You can't do anything else. All
It's
we
three
can
of
do
them, right? It's Phil Emery, it's
Phil Emery,
Pace, and it's
right?
Poles.
Yeah,
Poles.
Poles.
From
So-
2013, yeah.
So, like Sean said earlier, if we get rid of Poles, are we getting another Phil Emery or Ryan Pace?
That's the fear you have.
Okay,
Phil
but
Emery
you
put a
can't
team in the
operate-
Super Bowl.
you can't operate with
No, he
that
didn't.
fear.
No, he didn't.
Didn't Phil Emery put it? Wasn't he the GM in 2006?
George McCaskey took over in 2011.
No.
Hired Phil
No,
Emery.
yeah, Emery was in
2011.
the early
Yeah.
2010s.
Actually, 2000. He actually kept I think he kept the GM for the first year. I think he hired Phil Emery in 2012.
He hired Emery.
Or
Emery
Angelo.
had to keep Lovie Smith
Angelo.
for a year.
Angelo.
And they paired him with Mark Trestman.
Yes,
That's-
and then they
Angelo.
did,
I was
and then they
thinking
did the
Jerry
same thing
Angelo.
again the next time they hired a new GM, Ryan Pace.
Ryan
I
Pace
was
had to
same
keep
thing
John
again.
Fox for a year,
Yes.
and then they went
Yes.
to Matt Nagy.
This is Jerry Angelo.
So Jerry Angelo went to the Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jerry Angelo went to the Super Bowl.
Independent Aquaman says to Zach Lipsy, studying opponents is second most important. Becoming well-versed in your own mindset and schemes is most important. Better learn about counterfeits only after learning the original. Very well said, Independent Aquaman. We were talking about this whether or not we trust Ryan Poles to make the next head coaching hire, guys. I think that's a great segue into what I think we should talk about next is, Kyle, you had this article that you brought up from Brad Biggs about the potential next head coaches of the Chicago Bears. I think that's what everybody wants to hear about. Let's talk about that.
Kyle,
Yeah,
really quick. It just popped on my phone. There's 2 other reporters that are reporting this right now too. So
The same thing, right? The same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So this was originally written by Brad Biggs in an article this morning, but Dan McNeil just retweeted this on his radio show. It says sources confirm these 4 coaches are on the Bears list for head coach: Ben Johnson, Brian Flores, Joe Brady, Mike Vrabel. They may talk to other candidates, but they're targeting these 4. So the 4 top targets for the Chicago Bears are Ben Johnson,
Today,
Joe Brady,
right now.
Brian Flores, and Mike Vrabel. Right now, yes. Before Kevin Stefanski is fired, if that's going to happen.
There's
right
potential
now,
other things that could happen.
Yes, right now with who's available, the Bears, it's coming from inside the
narrowed it
building.
down to-
Inside the building, that the Bears have narrowed it down to their top 4 candidates. And
The phone
I'm
calls
they're going
coming
to do a
from
lot of
inside
interviews. They're going to do a lot of interviews. But right now, Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Brian Flores, and Mike Vrabel are probably going to be the first 4 interviews that they do. Those are
Okay,
gonna
that's
be
what
the
I want to
first
talk
4
about
interviews
then,
that they
guys. We have a list
You heard it here first, guys.
according to these reports that the Bears have narrowed it down to 4 guys. I want to go through these 4 guys, and I want to see who, if we can pick one out of these 4 that we would say would be the best candidate for the Bears' next head coaching hire. Sean, who's your favorite out of that list of 4?
you already know where I'm going.
Ben Johnson, right?
Ben
Kyle,
Johnson.
who's your favorite out of
Let's
that
do
list?
process of elimination because
Here, I'll tell you this.
I like Burnham. I like Burnham.
Ben Johnson's my favorite. Flores is my least favorite.
I like Burnham.
Of the 4.
Process of elimination. Who's all 3 of our least favorite? Or all 4
Joe
of our least
Brady.
Well, Joe Brady's off this list. Joe Brady is off this list.
But he's on the Bears list.
Yeah, no, that's concerning to me. I don't want.
He's
I
an
actually-
offensive coordinator at
I
best.
actually put Brian Flores below Joe Brady for me personally. Just I think
Brian Flores is my worst. I don't want him.
so. Brian Flores has these great blitz packages and all this that people talk about. You guys, Brian Flores has the 2nd or 3rd worst secondary in the NFL right now, and Harrison Smith is
Yeah,
ranked
they've
the
been
number 1 secondary defender in the NFL right now. So, and he still has the worst secondary in the NFL.
And Cam
So-
Bynum's really good too. Cam
Yes.
Bynum is really
Yes.
good
So-
too.
so he is so focused.
And a player they drafted died.
Yes. So what that means is Brian Flores is so focused on getting after the quarterback, he's getting beaten over the top. And I don't want a coach who's willing to do that. I don't want anything to do with that, especially since if Brian Flores is the key to success is going to be rushing the quarterback, then the Bears are going to have to draft 5 defensive linemen because right now they don't have any.
Sean, real quick, you got that Ben Johnson thing, that article, Ben Johnson thing, because Aquaman's talking about it here. I just want to show it to kind of.
What he said. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For hold on one second.
Ben Johnson indirectly told your ownership that he only be considered becoming head coach if they beg him, if they fix their screw ups, and if they tell him how they're fixing it. And then,
this
right here.
Bears organization is going to have to pitch themselves. To
Organizational alignment, in particular, between the head coach and GM, recognition from the organization on what went wrong previously, and their willingness to fix it. Exactly what you're talking about there, Aquaman.
Honestly, that's the oops. That's my biggest issue is if Ben Johnson sits down
and $30 million.
what went wrong and how they're going to fix it, they're going to look like we don't know. Because
Sean, the biggest issue should be saying the alignment. I don't know what he means there by the alignment of the head coach and the GM. The only way I could interpret that, guys, is that he's saying that he wants the new GM to be hired.
In simplest terms, he wants a GM.
If you do that, you are already giving Ben Johnson way too much money. He's now become LeBron James of head coaches. So now this guy gets to pick his GM. Well, then Ben Johnson just become a GM. Just be a GM head coach.
He doesn't want to make the hire. Or no, it's been implied that he
that's
doesn't
ridiculous.
want to make the hire. He wants the hire to happen during.
If Ben Johnson sits down and says, "I want Ryan Post fired, and I'm going to pick the GM," then I'm out.
That could just mean that he wants to sit down and see if him and Ryan,
if they all have the same idea.
Yeah, we don't know how to interpret
that.
That's the problem. We don't
Can
know.
we all say no at the same time to Ant Mass's question about Riverboat Ron?
No.
I'll bring him in as a DC.
Not even keep him the fuck away from my team. I don't want any part of it.
We're talking about Chico Rivera, right?
See, Dustin, that's what you just said something right there, Dustin. This is what I've been trying to tell people for the last week, and people you say you don't want any part of Ron Rivera, right?
Correct.
I don't want any part of Matt Eberflus.
Okay, he's gone.
Thomas Brown was hired by Matt Eberflus. I don't want any part of Matt Eberflus. I don't want anybody brought in here. I don't want anybody like that anymore.
Coach, let's get back on track here. I wasn't trying to throw us off track. Okay, so by process of elimination of Joe Brady being off that list, Mike Vrabel gets a bye. We're about to pit Ben Johnson against Brian Flores in terms of who's going up against Mike Vrabel to be the winner of the Bears best head coaching candidate for 4 stars. All right. Who are we taking? Ben Johnson, Brian Flores. Who are we taking? And if you're comparing those two, who do you like better, guys?
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson, why? Because right here, MS says, and I kind of like this comment. Ben Johnson has Josh McDaniels 2.0 vibes.
Well, let me ask you, please elaborate. Why do you say that? What makes you think he's Josh McDaniels 2.0? I'd like to know the evidence you're going to bring, the statistics you're bringing to the table that has you leaning that way. All I can tell you guys is Ben Johnson. Not only was he one of the only coaches in the last 20 years to be when the team pretty much fired the entire coaching staff, they retained him in the building, kept him in the building, and said, "Hey, Dan Campbell,
gave him a pretty big
you need to interview this guy and try to decide if you want to keep him in the building." And after 10 minutes of sitting down with him, Dan Campbell decided, not only am I going to keep you in the building, instead of being the tight ends or running back coach, now you're going to be the offensive coordinator. That's how much I like you. On top of that, Ben Johnson in 2022 had the 4th ranked offense in the NFL. 2023, he had the 3rd ranked offense in the NFL. 2024, right now, he has the 2nd ranked offense in the NFL. That would mean by next year, the Lions would be projected to be the number 1 offense in the NFL. That is since Ben Johnson has been the coach for the Detroit Lions. Also, guys,
the Lions might be the number 1 offense by the time this season ends in the
NFL. Also, if you go look at
the Bills or the Lions.
If you guys look at Jared Goff's statistics on the Rams with Sean McVay, not with the scrub, with Sean McVay, head coach, and look at statistics on the Lions, he's a much better player on the Lions. Not to say, I'm not talking about the success. So you could say, well, he went to a Super Bowl. I'm talking about statistics. Statistically, Jared Goff is a better player on the Lions than he was on the Rams. The Rams have Sean McVay as head coach. Sean McVay.
I hate to say this. He couldn't wait to get rid of Jared Goff because he couldn't win with him, even though he did.
Ben Johnson has taken him and becoming the best team in the NFL. He is.
But I will say this:
still got to win. They still got to win.
I will say this: if the Lions don't win, it's going to be because of Jared Goff. That's just my opinion. I think cost this team
or Dan Campbell going for it on 4th down.
I just think
that could be too.
Guys, I'll take Ben Johnson over Flores. I'll say that. I will.
Now here,
I think we have seen far too many times that offensive coordinator, they're great at drawing up plays. They're awesome, innovative minds. They're a great offensive mind in the NFL. They're changing with the times, and they're even evolving, and people are starting to copy them. But they get into that role of head coach, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know how to lead men. They don't know how to control the whole organization and make those decisions. And in the moment decisions, game management decisions, we see that far more often than we see that guy who comes in from that offensive coordinator position and becomes one of the best head coaches in the league.
I understand that, but
I'm concerned about when
Sean said this 100 times too. Dude, if you take the top 15 head coaches in the NFL, if you rank them 1 to 15, 11 of them are exactly what you just described. Offensive coordinators who became head coaches. 11 of them are offensive coordinators who became head coaches. So basically what you're saying is you don't trust the Bears to pick the right offensive mind.
No, I don't. So that's a huge part of this equation.
But you just
Guys.
said to me, I don't trust the Bears to pick a better GM than Ryan Poles. It's asinine to say fire Ryan Poles and hire a new GM. How's
to
that?
not fire Ryan Poles? Yes, that makes no sense to me. Yes,
but you're saying that don't pick Ben Johnson because the Bears will pick the wrong guy.
I'm not saying don't pick Ben Johnson.
You're saying don't pick an offensive coordinator. Yeah, you're saying as an offensive coordinator, the Bears will take the wrong offensive coordinator, make him head coach, and he won't be a good head coach. I think I could make the same argument about putting a new GM. I mean, if this team's competitive and you think their offensive line away from being a good football team, then I believe ultimately Ryan Poles is probably the best option the Bears have because whoever they have on their list of GM candidates is probably not good. It's probably not good.
Let me pose this question with Ben Johnson. He has a certain individual named Penei Sewell who is one of the best in the league, and they built those trenches. Is he the same coach without those trenches and Penei Sewell leading the way?
That offensive line,
Trent Williams?
Well, of course not.
Having that offensive line makes it a lot easier to draw play calls. Let's just say
exactly.
Yes, and you could say about every team that is without Trent Williams, without Christian McCaffrey. You could do that with every single team in the NFL.
This is my point, though.
Right?
We're going to bring Ben Johnson in. You can't set him up to fail. You have to build this line, and this goes back 100%. To the question. In 3 years, we've watched him fail, and pretty much every depth piece. If you take away Darnell Wright, everything's been a failure that this guy has put on this line.
Yeah, but what we
trust him to build this line.
What week are you talking about? Because we liked Matt Pryor 2 weeks ago, guys. We all talked about how good Matt Pryor's been playing. Right?
I think
that comes down to that quote from Ben Johnson, guys. Not quote, but like the organization understanding of where they went wrong and their willingness to fix it. Is Ryan Poles laying out a plan for my offensive line was my biggest problem with my offense this year. These are the steps that I'm going to be taking to fix that offensive line for you, Ben Johnson.
Can you guys think of another guy? Can you guys think of another guy who, I mean, obviously wasn't the GM, he was the director of scouting, but you guys think of another guy who replaced all 5 offensive linemen in 1 year?
Oh, God.
Outside of Ryan Poles?
Well, anyways, 3 of you guys chose Ben Johnson over Flores, so we can move on. But Ben Johnson won that. And that's now Ben Johnson versus Mike Vrabel.
Yep.
And we're going to be split here, right? So we're going to have to go to the chat because I know I'm going Vrabel. I think Brandon's going Vrabel.
All right, well, you guys give us your reasons why. Don't just say
well, because of what I just said, man. These offensive coordinators, you don't know if they can be a head coach because you've never seen them do it. That's why I was excited about the prospect of Thomas Brown being the interim head coach, because you get an opportunity to see him be a head coach and in that role. We have not seen Ben Johnson in that role. We've seen Mike Vrabel in that role. We've seen Mike Vrabel make chicken salad out of chicken shit with a lot of Tennessee Titans teams and get them to the playoffs, guys. We've seen that he's a hit you in the mouth kind of guy, a Dan Campbell kind of guy. Like those, he was Dan Campbell before Dan Campbell in a lot of ways.
Dustin,
and he's a guy that can establish a culture for this team. We know he is a leader of men. It's not even close for me.
Okay, so if what you're saying is, listen, first of all, I think we all agree that Caleb Williams is the most important part of the Chicago Bears going forward, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, you guys know what happens when you have a defensive head coach and he hires offensive coordinators and they look really good? The Bears they leave. So what you're saying is, you're willing to hire Mike Vrabel, and he could go through 3 offensive coordinators in the next 3 years. If Caleb Williams is the guy we think he's going to be, it plays well, and this offense is humming. You're going to lose an offensive coordinator at the end of every single year because they're going to get an opportunity to be head coach, and they're going to take it because money trumps all, and that's what they all want. They want notoriety and they want
Not
money.
necessarily. Ben Johnson turned down head coaching jobs
1 year. 1 year. What's going to happen next?
In the right situation, man. And listen, Caleb is the right guy to have in that position because Caleb is a professional and Caleb is going to figure out any offense that he gets plugged into. I firmly believe that. I'm not so concerned about that. I want Vrabel to make the right coaching hire and then let the cards fall where they may. If he performs well enough that this offensive coordinator, this anonymous offensive coordinator we're talking about, to get a job as a head coach, so be it. You still have a system in place. You have a culture in place.
Yeah,
now you can plug in another guy.
Well, I don't understand
that.
Went
really
Justin,
well.
You're saying that Caleb Williams could succeed in any system, but he couldn't do it in Shane Waldron's system.
Kyle, like Brandon just said, if that offensive coordinator goes and gets another head coaching job behind coaching Caleb Williams under Mike Vrabel, something went really well. That's a good problem to have. Okay, and we will be able to continue to plug and play, guys.
We also know, as Bears fans with Jay Cutler, that changing your offensive coordinator every year with a defensive coach like Lovie Smith is not a good idea. Right? We all agree on that. Changing
replacing the coordinator position above the head coach.
It's not a good idea.
you're
Yeah, you can't.
the
You can't put
priority
that
on
ahead
your
of the
offensive
head coach.
coordinator is higher than your head coach.
I don't understand.
As
So you
long
guys
as
are
the head
saying
coach stays
Jake
here-
Cutler passing for 4,000 yards to Denver, coming to Chicago, and never doing it again,
Well,
had
as
nothing
long
to
as the
do
head
with changing
coach
the offensive
remains-
coordinator every single year.
But Kyle,
It did.
Mike
It
Tomlin
did.
is a
That wasn't
guys,
because of success, guys.
how many examples are there?
That
to
wasn't
prove
because
you
of success.
wrong?
That was because of failure.
Yeah, but and Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh have managed to
Because
maintain
they hired the wrong guy,
success
which
with
is a
different
possibility with
offensive
Mike Vrabel.
coordinators because they created winning cultures. Mike Tomlin does not need an offensive coordinator to win. He needs to be Mike Tomlin. That's how that works.
But Brennan, how
Mike
can you
rules it,
quantify?
He
how can you
runs it.
quanti-
It succeeds.
And that's
How
the
can-
guy
how-
you need.
How can
That's
you
the guy
quantify
you
what the
need.
Bears need to instill winning culture? Maybe the coach is not. Maybe they need more than that.
That guy.
Maybe they need a new
that
owner.
guy is the
Maybe they
winning
need a new
culture
owner
instilling
installed.
Okay,
culture.
so are you guys Ben Johnson? You guys are Ben
Yes,
Johnson in
they
this
are.
Vrabel versus Johnson conversation?
I would be fine with both, but I do not like the idea of losing our
Hey,
offensive
hey, really
coordinator every
quick,
single year. I
really
don't
quick
like
on
that
Mike
at all. I don't
Tomlin.
like
Mike
that.
Tomlin not
not a-
needing a good
not a
offensive
recipe.
coordinator. They went out and hired Arthur Smith. He's considered
Yeah,
one
I
of
was
the
gonna say
best
they've
offensive
actually
minds
changed him
in
quite
the
a
But he
bit.
was still winning. He was winning with
Yeah.
shit, guys.
He's
Guys, you
never had a
realize-
bad OC.
You guys realize that Mike
Well,
Tomlin
that's a
went
good thing
8-8?
about being a good head coach. You can
You
hire a good
realize-
offensive coordinator.
Sean,
if you're a
Mike
good head
Tomlin,
coach and you got
Mike
good relationships.
Tomlin went 8-8 on a season. He ran a wildcat with D'Angelo Williams. He didn't even use a quarterback. The guy doesn't need an offensive coordinator if he doesn't need a quarterback to have a winning record. This guy wins football games. It
You
doesn't
guys
matter
realize,
who's
you
working
guys
for him.
realize before that it was Bruce Arians, who was another great offensive mind. You just said Tomlin doesn't need an offensive coordinator. He's only hired the top offensive minds in the game.
But
No
he's
one's
It's
saying
insane to
everybody,
make.
everybody needs an offensive coordinator, but what Zach Lipsy's saying right here is the point I was trying to make. Vrabel is going to have a system in place that'll have a guy in place that could step up and run the
And
same.
the point I'm
fucking
trying to
offense.
make is Zach Lipsy. You don't know that. You don't know that.
Okay, but we don't
do
know
not
that he
know
won't
that.
either, Kyle. So
Yeah.
I trust a guy like
But
Vrabel.
What I'm
did in
saying is-
Tennessee,
what I'm
right?
saying-
Didn't
what
his
I'm-
offensive coordinator get hired out of Tennessee? Didn't he do the same thing there?
No, he had two offense coordinators his 7 years in Tennessee. That's not. He didn't change it
Okay,
every
so
year.
one of them got hired, right?
No, he had three. He had three offensive coordinators. He had LaFleur, who hired as a head coach.
Got hired.
He
Yes.
had Arthur Smith, who got hired as a head coach, and then the guy whose name I don't know because they
Yes,
were really bad.
yes, and in those years, with a great quarterback and Ben Roethlisberger, they won one Super Bowl.
It was
One.
Nick Holtz.
They won
We're
one.
talking about,
Oh, for the
we're talking about
Tennessee
the Titans.
They won
We're talking
one.
about
Yes, we're talking about the Titans.
I'm
That's
talking
what
about. I'm talking about the Steelers. They won one Super Bowl, and him hiring five offensive coordinators. They won one Super Bowl.
What are you
Why?
debating whether or not Mike Tomlin
Love
should be
your
the
comment
coach?
there. Arthur Smith
Vern,
is an
no, Vern,
overrated
what I'm
OC.
Vern, what
Tomlin
I'm
was good
asking you
before
is
him.
what I'm
Good
asking you
asterisk.
is Mike Tomlin, as good as the head coach as he is Ben Roethlisberger getting a new offensive coordinator every year? Did that hamper his opportunity to win a Super Bowl because he had to learn a whole new system every single year? So it's like starting from the beginning for the quarterback. Does that hamper you a little bit? You can't say it doesn't.
I think that depends on the player.
And really
Can't say
quick
it
back
doesn't.
to that,
Ben Roethlisberger is a very
Tomlin-
smart guy and a very good
Tomlin
quarterback.
also had
I don't know
really
about
good
smart,
OC.
man. He was a good quarterback. I
But
don't know
he's
about
hired
smart.
those guys. That's my point. When you put a guy in charge of your team that is smart and knows what they do, they're going to hire smart, good people to to fill those roles for
Yeah,
them.
it's again in
That's
trust
what
and
you
hiring.
want.
That's you trust Vrabel to hire good people if he loses.
I
one.
do personally. I do.
You trust? You're saying personally? Do you trust Ben Johnson to win football games?
Kyle,
I do.
You trust?
I
Kyle, you trust
do.
Ben Johnson.
Okay,
Kyle,
I
do you
do.
trust Ben Johnson
So
to hire a
then
good defensive coordinator?
Yes,
Do you trust
I
Ben
do.
Johnson
I
to
think
hire a
he's
good
smart.
defensive coordinator year after year after year? If the coin can be flipped any way. It doesn't change. Offense
Vernon,
and defense doesn't dictate who
It
you hire
does.
as the
It
head
does
coach.
about
change.
the
Because
leader.
it's the same
does
thing
change,
on both
Vernon.
sides of the
Vernon,
coin.
it does change because offensive coordinators are primarily hired as head coaches. Defense coordinators are not. So you're not going to lose your defense coordinator every year.
I don't
Def-
care who's
defense
primarily
coordinators don't
hired
leave
as
very.
head
Vernon,
coaches. I don't
how
care.
many head coaching jobs has Steve Spagnuolo taken?
He's taken
None.
one.
Yep,
Well,
and he's been a defensive coordinator ever since.
Guys, real quick, I want to just throw this to the chat because you guys are Ben Johnson. We've got this whittled down to Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel. We're on Team
Guys,
Vrabel
this
down
is
here at the
based on a
bottom.
report Kyle read from
Yep.
Brad Biggs about the four names remaining. For
So
the Bears coaches.
Darius has thrown in here that he would go with Vrabel. If you guys are in the chat, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing and you want to come back with us on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Sunday, and then back again on Monday. We're going to be putting out great content for you all through the week, even after the football season. But yeah,
Hey, Dustin,
put it in the
real
chat,
quick.
guys. Who do you think? Who are you taking? Are you taking Ben Johnson or are you taking Mike Vrabel? We're going to let the chat
And
kind of
why?
break this tie
Re-
because we're not
Hey,
going.
really quick on Vrabel. In
We're not
his
going
years
nowhere
in
here.
Tennessee, he was 54-45. He wound up with a 54% winning percentage. He made the playoffs. Won 3 years in
2019 to
2020 and 21.
Yes,
Went to
Vrabel. Yeah.
He went to the AFC Championship game. He's one game under 500 in his 5 appearances. He lost to Baltimore in the wild card. He lost to Cincinnati in the divisional, and he did pull the upset from the wild card and get to the AFC Championship game in 2019 against the Chiefs. Eventually,
this is a guy.
Sean, you remember though that team they went to the AFC Championship with?
Yeah,
That was not a very talented team.
No, I remember. I remember watching that.
Because
Like, I
of
don't know.
Vrabel,
I
yeah.
just wasn't
Yeah, and you're going to need
understanding why they
defensive
were doing it.
players for Vrabel. You're not going to draft offensive line. You're going to draft a defensive tackle.
For me, defense wins championships, offense wins games, and we're going to find that out with the Detroit.
Zach
you
Lions.
Lipsy leans Vrabel here too.
You don't win many games when your quarterback gets his head knocked off.
We got 2 comments for Vrabel. I mean, no matter what, they got to fix the offensive line, guys. No matter what coach they hire, no matter what style of philosophy they have,
Guys,
Vrabel's going to want to beat the shit out of people if we were to hire him. You need a road
I'm
grading
shouting you out. Michael, I'm calling you out right now. Prior to the season, Michael texted me that Vrabel would never work as a head coach again. I literally thought to myself, he could very well be interviewing for the Bears job next season. And he is absolutely
Michael, why do you
head coach?
Michael, why do you say that? Ask Michael why he says that. Why does he
Michael
say
even in here?
No, I was just giving him shit because I remember that text conversation. Just giving you crap, Mike.
General Manager John, is this a new member of the chat, guys?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Fire polls. Bears are the only team in the NFL without a road win this season or last season.
Or the season before that.
On Sunday. They had a road win against the Commanders on a Thursday.
General Manager John.
Oh, they did. Yeah, you're right.
And the Vikings. Yeah, they had more than one.
Offense is dead last in yards per game this season. The offense has been atrocious. Yes. Thanks for chiming in, General Manager John. We appreciate it.
You're the next GM, John.
The offense has been atrocious. The Bears' defense has been good. The Bears' defense has been really good, and they're not winning games. You know what you need to improve? The offense. You know what you do? Hire an offensive mind to improve the offense. I agree 100%. Yes. Become innovative. Become like the rest of the NFL where wide open players are running around the field all the time. Like George Kittle and Juwan Jennings were yesterday. You see what Kyle Shanahan does with the scheme? You see a wide open. You think the Bears don't know who George Kittle is, guys? No, but he schemes him open. He schemes them open. That's why they're always wide open. That's what great offensive minds do. They make it really easy on the quarterback. They don't just go, hey, let's just run the ball with a good offensive. They make it easy on the quarterback. They make big plays. They score touchdowns fast. If they get behind in games, they can score with 2 minutes left. That's what good, innovative offensive minds do for football teams. Look at Kyle Shanahan. Look at Sean McVay. Look at Kevin O'Connell. Look at Matt LaFleur. Look what these guys do, guys.
How would you? So you said earlier today, and I thought it was a great graph that you found. Guys, go check it out. I'm kind of maybe can cite the source. He provided a graph where if all 1-score games had been flipped, then the Bears would be second place in the NFC, Chiefs would be last. But it's obviously implying that coaching matters most in those games, those 1-score games. And Flus was atrocious, guys. I mean, he broke records. We beat the odds on just about every bad record you could set. But who do you... Guy, I'll ask both of you, Sean, Kyle. When it comes to that the good coach wins the 1-score game, do you feel more comfortable with Vrabel or Ben Johnson in the results of the flipped chart?
I mean, I'm fine with. I feel comfortable with Ben Johnson as the head coach.
Yeah,
that's what
I
think
feel
he's going
fine
to win football games. I think he's going to score a lot of points. I think his offense is going to score a lot of points.
Who would you bet on winning those games?
Can I just say this? And this is where it is for me, because I'm going to agree with Kyle, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, right here on this show. It's time for the Bears to get into the 20th century. You go right now down the list of the top teams in the NFL. Right now, right here, 95% of them are run by a former offensive coordinator, passing coordinator on the offensive side of the ball. If we have to go through the names, I can start giving them to you. This is the way the NFL is going. This old thinking of defensive coordinator bullshit that the Bears have been doing since the beginning of time is over. It's done. It's not the NFL anymore. It's time to get the 20th century offense in the fucking NFL, man.
I think you could argue that 2 of the best coaches in the NFL are defensive coaches.
It's not about a defensive
and who would that be? Who would that be? Mike Tomlin? Because Mike Tomlin coached both sides of the ball.
Yeah, he was
Can I say this, guys? to me, you are making this conversation about something that it is not for me. It's not about offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. It's
Me
about
neither.
a leader
Well,
of
here-
men. It's about a leader
You guys
of
are- you-
men.
but you
I
guys
know
are-
Vrabel has led teams to successful seasons.
And I know Ben Johnson is leading that offense to score the most points of
You
any
don't know
team in the
what Ben
NFL,
Johnson is
and they
doing
obviously
because you're
respect
not
the shit out of him. They
Yes.
obviously respect the shit out of him, dude.
I have no problem with the idea of Ben Johnson. I'm just saying if I'm choosing between Vrabel or Ben Johnson, I'm taking Vrabel
then
because
you
I
guys want an
understand that he's
experienced-
capable
you
of
want-
what this team needs.
Yeah, you guys put experience over
you want an
over scoring
experienced head
points.
coach.
That's what you're doing.
That's what it's been about this entire time. And I want that experience to be good experience.
But
I
at
don't
the
want it to
same
be
time,
Brian Flores
Dustin,
experience.
Dustin, at the same time, isn't there enough proof in the NFL right now, as we sit here and have this conversation, that a first-time hire can be successful and win Super Bowls? Because
Yes,
Sean
there is.
McVay,
Yeah, they were all first-time
Dan
hires at
Campbell,
one
Dan
point.
Campbell, right now.
Exactly.
What do
So
you
was
guys-
Mike Tomlin.
What do you guys think?
For
What do you
everybody.
guys think?
I
what
really
do you guys
want to-
think? Hold on. What do you guys think the
the playbook.
biggest problem with this year's Bears coaching staff was? The inability to create innovative offensive plays or lack of leadership? What was the Bears' biggest problem this season?
You know what it wasn't?
What
It wasn't
failed
the
the Bears?
defense. It wasn't the defense. I can
What
tell you
failed the
that.
Bears?
It
What
Well,
wasn't
it was
failed the Bears?
yesterday. It was the
Leadership?
defense yesterday.
wasn't the-
leadership
when Eric Washington,
or-
yeah, when Matt
or
Eberflus lost his
innovative
job, yeah.
offense? What?
And general
It's
manager
leadership.
John,
It's a
I'm
lack
with
of
you.
leadership. That's what it was yesterday,
It's
too.
losing culture.
I'm
That's
with
what
you
it is.
The
100%.
Bears' biggest
and I also
need,
have-
guys, is a leader. The Bears'
It's a losing
greatest
culture.
need is
Yeah,
a leader. You
That
know
can
you
break
have
that
it.
losing
You guys-
culture, Kyle.
we
You
understand-
know
you
you
guys,
have
we
one in
understand
Mike
that, but you
Vrabel.
don't know that's
it.
not Ben
You're not
Johnson.
taking a
You
chance.
don't know
Hey,
that it's not
is-
Ben Johnson.
is there
I
a
just
winning-
know it's better
is
odds.
there a
than-
winning
Ben Johnson has a
culture-
higher ceiling than Mike Vrabel.
Is
Ben
there
Johnson
a winning
has a
culture being
greater
developed
chance
in
of
Detroit?
failure. Ben Johnson is a bigger risk because
Yes.
he hasn't
Yes.
proven at
And now
all
again,
to
now you guys are
anyone
saying the Bears
ever
shouldn't take
before
risks. They should
that he's
fire
any
Ryan
good at
Poles.
being a head coach.
Guys,
shouldn't
one at a
take
time,
risks.
please.
Guys, our rookie head coaching hires in this organization, at least, have not proven successful. So if we're going to look at track records of George McCaskey and Ryan Poles,
It's because
if
it
we're
was the
looking at
wrong
track
guy.
records, look at track records of coaching hires in this organization for guys who were never head coaches.
That doesn't have any
It
bearing on
doesn't
Ben
go
Johnson.
well.
All right, guys, we're not getting anywhere.
Matt
I have a
Eberflus
real
can't
problem.
Matt Eberflus being a bad coach can't be a bearing of why you don't hire Ben Johnson.
We're not going to get
That's-
anywhere.
That's asinine.
We're not going to get anywhere. I have a real problem with us
Number
neglecting
one,
the chat.
I wanted to get to general manager John.
Yes, I've been trying to get to him for 5 minutes.
I have been. I was commenting on it, but number one. Number two, I believe this
Read
110%.
it.
I also think Kevin O'Connell right now might be one of the top 3 best coaches in the NFL.
Might be number one.
Plain
Sean.
and simple.
He might be number one.
This guy is an absolute
number one.
stud.
Okay, Ben
I feel like
Johnson
I
is the
said
next
that
Kevin
before the
O'Connell.
season
Spitting
started.
image of him. Kevin O'Connell was OC for Rams with McVay, then went 5-1 in playoffs and won a Super Bowl. Now Kevin O'Connell winning with Vikings. Hasn't won that Super Bowl yet, but and I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but they're at least
No,
competitive.
and this
I like
panel
this
wasn't-
though. This follow-up here. Throw the money at Ben Johnson, pair him up with Brian Dable and Mike Zimmer as your
I
offense.
like both of that.
This is a very intriguing scenario he paints where if you hire Ben
like
Johnson,
that.
then you're pairing him with very experienced head coaches, former head coaches as your coordinators who he can then lean on in those game management situations. Now, this is kind of a best of both worlds. I like the experience here, and I like the Ben Johnson thing here too. This is a nice little.
I said this 3 weeks ago.
I like
Yeah.
Ben
I
Johnson.
said this 3 weeks
Robert
ago when we talked
Saleh.
about Ben Johnson. Then hire former head coaches or long
Yeah, we
time
talked about
coordinator to be in these positions, and you can
Robert
lean on
Saleh.
them. I said
Ben
that.
Johnson could use a Robert Saleh for sure.
It's a very
like
interesting
Robert
thought,
Saleh.
John. Thank you.
What I'm saying is, I bet you there was Packers fans and Vikings fans who had reservations about hiring first-time head coach Matt LaFleur, or Kevin O'Connell, and it's worked
Well,
out
you
great
guys
for them.
did.
And you know what they
guys,
did?
this panel-
They
hold on.
prioritized scoring points. All they have to do is score more points than the other
when
team.
projecting this division.
Not at all. Not even close.
No. This had nothing to do with Kevin O'Connell. It had everything to do
It
with
didn't
Sam
have anything
Darnold.
to do
Brandon,
with
you
Kevin
know that.
O'Connell.
You
It
know
had to
that,
do
Brandon.
for me with
You
Sam
know that.
Darnold.
But
And I
if
didn't
Kevin
think the
O'Connell is
defense
that guy, you should have
was gonna
expected
be.
him to get
Yes,
this out of.
yes.
Nah,
Jared
no,
Goff.
coming into
Jared
this
Goff.
season, here.
Dustin, you
Jared
don't
Goff.
expect 28 touchdowns and 10 picks from Sam
He's
Darnold.
having
Don't
an
even talk
amazing
about
season.
I
It
kinda did.
goes further that Kevin O'Connell.
I
And this
kinda
is
did.
something- This is something that we do way too often, guys.
Yeah,
At the beginning of
it's
the
so
season,
black and
yes,
white.
there wasn't that impression. But as time goes
Well,
on,
you guys have been doing it the whole show,
impressions
just so you know.
change.
You guys have been doing it the
Impressions
whole show.
So, in my mind, at the beginning of the year, I did not think Kevin O'Connell was one of the best coaches. He has, through this year, proven
Cemented
to me
himself.
that he is.
Yeah.
He's doing it with everything that organization has been through this season. and he's got this team at 11-2. Kevin O'Connell, tip your hat. You're the coach of the year, my friend.
Yeah, he should
He's
be.
11-2. It's
Absolutely.
Sam freaking
He
Darnold.
absolutely should be, and he will be. He will be coach of the year.
He should be. He should be. If he doesn't,
Yeah,
and it goes
he'd
to
be
somebody else.
robbed.
Who was the coach of the year last year?
Wasn't it Houston?
Well,
Was it Ryans?
D'Amico Ryans? Wasn't he the coach of the year last year?
I don't know.
You know what?
I thought it was Stefanski, wasn't it?
oh yeah, it was Stefanski.
Yeah, he won
Was
2 in
it?
a row, didn't
It
he?
was
Yeah,
between
they kept-
him and Steichen.
They kept saying Stefanski had the most of his salary on IR, and he still went
And
to
it
the
was yes, it was Stefanski.
Stefanski
He
is
had like his
amazing
5 best players on IR.
Zach Lipsy says Ben Johnson would not have Brian Dable as his OC. And listen, it's an interesting thought process. Is all I'm saying. I like the sound of it. The odds of it are low, but if the Bears could pull something off like that, where they get that young offensive mind and get a guy who's had that experience as both an offensive coordinator and a head coach to be their OC, that would be the best.
Wait, Zach, why would Dable not be?
Yeah, Dable's going to be an offensive coordinator. So
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
you
not
guys,
getting a
you
head
guys,
coaching
you
job.
guys, the reason he's saying
That
this,
guy
I
sucks.
guarantee you, but Zach will back this up in a second. The reason he's saying this is, first of all, it's probably going to be somebody on the Detroit staff, because generally when people come head coaches, they hire their friends or people close to them. It's people they're comfortable with. Second of all,
Unless Dan
he's-
Campbell doesn't.
second of
want
all,
those
he's-
guys to go
second of
over.
all,
if it's a motion, he can't stop it.
Second of all, he's saying it because Brian Dable is not the type of guy who goes from a head coach to an offensive coordinator who doesn't call his plays. Ben Johnson's going to call his own plays. So it's going to be an offensive coordinator that doesn't have that much responsibility. Brian Dable's not going to take a job like that. He's not. He's going to take a job where he has
Hey, do you
a
guys
lot of
know-
responsibility.
Did
because he
Mike
knows he's
Vrabel
capable of
call
doing it.
plays? Did Mike Vrabel call plays?
Defensively,
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Oh, I don't know about
I
defense.
also love the idea of a head coach
Yeah,
that's
he
not
was a
calling
defensive
plays. I love the idea of a head coach that is not calling plays. That's a big draw for me too. If
Well, Brian, you
Vrabel
got to
is
take that
not
with a grain of
calling-
salt, though, because people say like, "Oh, well, but Andy Reid doesn't call his plays." Andy Reid is pretty much the play caller.
Andy Reid has been the play caller for
Yes,
that offense.
yes, he makes the game plan, and if anybody veers off, he takes over the play calling immediately. He said
You
that
know what's
before.
funny? I don't know if this is something that Bears fans all knew, but Andy Reid did not give Matt Nagy play calling until that wild card game
Yes, I
against,
know
the last game of the
against
year.
the Tennessee
Yes.
Titans,
Yes,
where
I know
they lost.
I know that.
That was the last game they coached together before Nagy became the head coach of the Chicago Bears. That was the first game that Andy Reid actually gave over the play calling duties to Matt.
Well, here,
Nagy.
let's see what Kyle Harris, because Robert Salah, I think this is actually,
The defensive
if
coordinator.
the Bears hire an offensive coach, I think this is a very strong possibility. I don't think this is far-fetched at all. Robert
I
Salah
love him
may
as a
very
defensive
well end
coordinator.
up being the Bears
I
defensive
love
coordinator.
Salah.
Because guess what? Robert Salah is not getting a head coaching job. He's not. So he's
No.
going to go back to defensive coordinator. He's going to go back defensive coordinator. If you look at the Bears
Maybe he's
team
gonna
on
stay in
paper,
Green Bay.
It's the same as Dable. Yeah, neither one of those guys will be head coaches.
They
ever.
will be back to their coordinator positions. And Robert Saleh, as the dude, I'm a Niners fan. Robert Saleh as the 49ers defensive coordinator was the absolute shit. That defense was unstoppable, and Robert Saleh had them fired up all game, every game. I love
His Jets defense is finished pretty high as well. I think they were somewhere.
They were really good
and
last
they've gotten
year.
a lot worse since they fired him.
Yeah.
They've got, just like the Bears look like they might be doing. Since they fired him.
Flus and Salah should be the number 1 and 2 defensive coordinator candidates in the offseason, right?
well,
I
yeah,
mean,
Zach, Arthur Smith has something to do with that.
I was just gonna say that,
No,
Kyle.
it was no accident that he.
Everyone just dismisses Arthur Smith.
No,
It's like
it's
he's
because
not
Arthur
there.
Smith. Tomlin hired him, though. Tomlin hired him and put him in place to run his offense. That's a smart
what I'm
move
saying.
by a fucking head coach. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what you want your head coach to do. So don't take
Yes.
credit from nobody.
Yes.
yeah, could you
Yes.
imagine? I'm not hiring this.
You guys.
Could you imagine? I'm not hiring this candidate.
Okay,
He might be a head coach.
How
one
many
day.
Super Bowls has Mike Tomlin won? Great coach,
only
great
has
coach,
one.
great coach,
One
amazing
Won
coach,
against
amazing
the
coach,
Packers.
amazing coach. So generally, when Sean says defense was champion, offense was guys, I can argue that the best offenses in the NFL continue to make it to the championship games. It's the teams that score the most points, guys. It's the Lions, it's the Chiefs, it's the Ravens. People are now saying the Ravens have the best offense of all time, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's the Ravens, it's the Bengals, the Rams. These are the teams that make Super Bowls. The teams that score a lot of points, that score a ton of points. Those are the teams. You guys see how fast the Bills and Chiefs scored in that overtime game in the playoffs a couple of years ago? 13 seconds it took them to score a
Yeah,
touchdown.
but didn't the
13
Chiefs,
seconds.
Didn't the
They didn't
Chiefs,
That
run
hasn't
the-
become what the NFL is. That was
didn't
a
the
one-off
Chiefs
game.
have a number 1
I
defense in the
agree.
NFL?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was not
this-
like
okay,
that's not the
You guys
common
remember the Super
thing.
Bowl against the Niners and or against the Eagles and Patriots with Nick Foles? What was that? 53 to
Yeah, but
48.
didn't Kyle, didn't the Chiefs have the number one defense in the NFL last year when they won a Super Bowl?
Yes,
They did.
With a
did.
very lack thereof offense.
Bernie, you know what's
Like
funny
a
about this
barely
conversation?
accenting.
Bernie, you know what's funny about this conversation? On the podcast, when we first got on the podcast before the season started, we had a show where you said Patrick Mahomes is solely responsible for the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, and I said, dude, they have the number one defense in the NFL.
No, we had a podcast where I said the Chiefs are going to have the number one defense in the
This is
NFL
what
this
you're talking
year.
about. We do too much of, Sean.
but it's just funny you say that
Hey,
because
we should
I
get Sean
was the one who was
before-
like,
Sean,
man,
I
the
know you
Chiefs
got a
is
jet.
good. You were like,
Sean,
Patrick
you got a
Mahomes.
jet.
Patrick Mahomes.
Did you want to do your division?
No, I haven't got a text yet, so I think I'm okay.
You want to
Okay.
jump into your
General Manager John says Kevin O'Connell's 24-9 in one score games, 73% win percentage. That is impressive. Yes, Kevin O'Connell.
what?
Is a good head coach.
I want to expand on that. You know,
Great.
Darnold leads the
Under.
NFL
I
with
don't-
46
it doesn't make
completions of over 20 yards, 30 completions of over 25. He's tied with Joe Burrow in 9 games with 2+ touchdowns, and he's tied with Lamar Jackson for the most games with 100 plus passer rating with 10. I mean, Sam Darnold under Kevin O'Connell has turned into freaking Joe Montana.
What he was drafted to be.
Unbelievable.
He's turned into what he was drafted
Yes,
to
Sean,
be.
and
You're
I
the
believe
third overall pick in the
if you
draft.
had to choose,
He's
I want
27
both.
years old.
I want both, Sean, but if you had to choose, if you're the Bears executive sitting in office right now and you say, do you think we stand a better chance winning a Super Bowl on the shoulders of Caleb Williams or on the shoulders of a good defense? Caleb Williams should be your number. Should be the key to success for the Chicago Bears for the next 15 years. That you maximize that guy's potential and you become almost unbeatable. Ask Patrick Mahomes. Even when he looks like shit, they are still winning football games because he always makes the right decision.
Need to get off the field. Their defense gets them off the field.
Yeah, the
because their
Chiefs are a
defense
different
is really
thing now,
good.
guys. We can't talk about that. The Chiefs find ways to win in the
Sean,
most
if
insane games.
Sean, if Patrick Mahomes'
in the
first
most
Super
insane
Bowl,
ways possible.
the
They
first
just
Super
find
Bowl
ways
he
to
won,
win. They don't care how they do
the
it.
first
They
Super
have
Bowl
good
he
coaching.
won. The first Super Bowl he
Yes,
won, he
that's
did not.
coaching.
Their defense was not like that. The first Super Bowl Mahomes won, their defense was not that good.
No, it wasn't. But they've
It was not.
established themselves as a we'll do whatever it takes to win team.
Okay, so
Patrick
So this
Mahomes
is
can
hey, hold
throw
on.
for
Let's
100
segue.
yards.
This is great. We're talking about the Chiefs. Let's revisit our predictions, guys, for our what did we just do?
Hey, really quick. I just want to go over some Super Bowl scores because we're talking about defense. 25-22 last year. The year before that, very high scoring, 38-35.
The Eagles, Chiefs, yes.
Yep. Then you had 23-20,
That was
31-9.
the Bengals and the Rams.
You had
I don't
13 to
think-
3.
Over 40 to me is not considered a defensive game. If you're 23 to 21 is not that's you're scoring touchdowns, man. There's 6 touchdowns scored in that game, man.
Yeah, the Patriots beat the Rams that 13-3 one. That was the Jared.
That was a defensive one. No, actually,
That
that was a worst. Who has the worst offense game? But then it was a defensive game. Jared Goff played terrible in that
There
game.
was Sean McVay
Terrible
coaching
in
a
that game.
Super Bowl.
Terrible. in
24
that
to
game.
10.
John
That's
says
why-
the Bears need to get Caleb a legit coaching staff this
You guys
offseason.
know why Sean McVay got rid of Jared Goff
I think
right
it
after
goes
that
both
Super Bowl?
ways.
You know why he got rid of Jared Goff right after that Super Bowl was over? You know why he was like, I don't know this guy here anymore because he played absolutely terrible. He was the
Yeah, he
reason
was
they
awful
lost
in that
game.
Super Bowl.
He's the
But
reason
here,
they
but
lost
like
that
what
game.
Sean is saying though, and what I'm saying with the Chiefs is I expect the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl again this year because they just find ways to win. And I just want a team like that in Chicago. I don't care.
Not beating Buffalo.
It doesn't have to be with Caleb Williams throwing for 300 yards. It doesn't have to be with the defense shutting everybody down. I don't care how they do it. Just fucking get some wins.
Well, we
Figure
know
out
where-
how to win.
we know Dustin- we know
Yeah,
Dustin-
look at-
we know
look at-
Dustin- we know
look at
Dustin's
Justin
pick. He's
Herbert's
picking the Chiefs.
statistics come down and the win column go up. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Jim
exactly. Jim
didn't need
Harbaugh
to
takes over the
throw
Chargers in 1 year. They
400
go from
yards.
a
You
shit
guys,
show
I'm
to
not
a
saying
contending
I'm not
playoff.
saying he has to throw 500 yards, but you know what else got better for the Chargers? Their offensive run game. Offense.
Yeah.
Run game. Offense.
Which Mike Vrabel would lean heavily.
Offense. Run game. That's where they got better. They got a lot better running
Yeah.
the football.
Ben
with their
Johnson
offense.
also.
Hey,
Hey, Sean,
Vrabel won't have
Sean,
Derrick Henry.
Sean, Ben Johnson also, Ben Johnson also wouldn't have a Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery here either. That's gotta
Yeah,
hurt.
no.
He's got
That's
DeAndre Swift.
Those two guys are ridiculous, man.
Darius
Those two
says the
guys are-
Lions wouldn't be where they are without Goff. That's a very good point. He
I
had
agree
a very
100%,
rough-
Darius.
a rough end
Ben
of
Johnson
his
has a
term
lot to
and-
do with
and
that, though.
I don't
With
think
the Rams, he ended very rough, but he has turned it around. And Ben
don't think
Johnson
anybody-
has had a big.
Darius, nobody disagrees
And-
with that, but Jared
and in
Goff
case-
has been made look better by the offense around him. And
I was going to
Ben
say, in
Johnson
case
and the
everyone
GM.
forgot, Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick in his draft class.
Yeah, so is Sam
And
Darnold.
he's third in MVP race right now.
Yeah, like,
So is Mitch Trubisky.
And then again, it goes back to how that roster was constructed, guys. The Lions were constructed the proper way and very smartly in terms of how they assembled that offensive line, signing free agents and drafting the right players, and then getting weapons around them after they did that.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
then
can I ask this?
Let's
Can I
talk about
ask
the
this?
Lions.
Can I ask?
Let's
can I
talk
ask
about
you
the
guys this?
Lions. Let's talk about
Can
the
I
Lions.
ask you this?
The
In
Lions are the
regards
best
to
team in football
Why?
in regards to losing a
because they can
coordinator.
beat you in any way.
In regards, Kyle,
How good is their secondary? How good is their defense?
let me ask a question.
Brandon, go ahead.
In regards to losing a coordinator who might have some success as the Bears offensive coordinator, right? You said that guy gets hired. Ben Johnson will get hired. Will Dan Campbell's system fall apart?
We're going to see. We're going to find out.
I
Or
don't
is Dan
expect it to.
Campbell? Or
They're
is
not
Dan
gonna be-
Campbell the guy?
They're
is
not going to
Dan
be
Campbell the
11.
guy who
They're not going to be
created-
11-1 through 12 weeks.
Or did
I can
Dan
tell you
Campbell
that.
create
Well,
the
there's
culture?
no way to know, but I don't
Did Dan
expect it to
Campbell-
fall off.
Yeah,
Did
we'll
Dan
see.
Campbell create the culture that Ben Johnson's winning?
Well, according to your friend on Facebook, Brennan, it was
sorry,
the
guys.
executive they hired Dan Campbell that changed the culture. It was the executive.
Okay, but because he said they hired
David
Dan Campbell,
Spielman,
the
his name
executive
David
hired
Spielman.
Dan.
That's his
Spielman,
name,
Rick
right?
Spielman,
Yeah.
and then Holmes as their GM, and then Campbell as their head coach. They put a triumvirate together of good minds to turn that team around, and that should be exactly what the Bears are following in terms of how they turn their team
And what I'm
around.
saying is,
Who
if
put that
Campbell's a
together?
good
Who
coach,
put together that
if
trifecta?
Campbell's a good coach, when he loses Ben Johnson, he'll hire another good
Here.
coordinator.
I'll say
And I
this.
expect him to, yes.
Can I say this? If the Lions, if we do hire Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears should bring Scotty Montgomery along with him from Detroit.
Well,
He's the
that's up-
assistant head coach.
That's up to
He's
him.
the running backs coach. You turn him into your OC. He knows Ben Johnson's offense, and now he's paired with his guy.
Oh
and
my
you're
God!
off
How
and running.
poetic would it be if the Bears hired Ben Johnson to be their head coach and it hurt the Lions? Like you made a good move for your organization, and it in turn also hurt a divisional opponent who's dominating the NFC North.
What would probably
How
happen is
amazing would that be? That would
Ben
be
Johnson would
awesome.
come here and suck balls, and the Lions would keep kicking ass. That's probably what will happen.
Well, you guys obviously
Because
just
we're
don't
the
like Ben
Bears, you know?
Johnson. You guys just don't like Ben Johnson. If you think Ben
It's
Johnson will
just
come
a
here and suck
joke,
balls, then
man.
you don't like Ben Johnson.
No, it's about the Bears, man. It's about the Bears.
It's
There's
just a
that
joke.
Jamar Chase
Got to
touchdown.
get humor at our own expense here.
So you're saying about the Bears, not Ben Johnson. The Ben Johnson's good, but the Bears will ruin him. So you don't think they're capable of ruining Mike Vrabel?
It was a fucking joke, Kyle. We're moving on. It was a joke.
Can I get an LOL after that, or a haha, or a smiley?
I
face
mean, it's
emoji
up to you to
whenever,
LOL, Kyle.
whenever you make a
I
joke. Whenever you make a joke, can you clarify it's a joke?
If I need to do that, then it's not a very good joke.
Like if I call you a
You have a very
douchebag,
good sense of humor.
if I call you a douchebag, I'm gonna go ha ha. Just kidding.
Oh,
yeah,
Sean, who was
Awesome.
your Super Bowl projection before the season began on this very show?
I had Kansas City and Detroit.
Looking pretty good.
Yeah, but I don't feel
Yeah.
Kansas City. I'm going Buffalo and Detroit.
Would you change your pick? You would change your pick then?
Buffalo
Oh, yeah.
and Detroit, you just said.
Yeah, I like where Buffalo is, and unfortunately, they took that L this week in Los Angeles, so it's going to be really hard for them to get that home field advantage. They're going to have to travel to Kansas City if they get to that AFC Championship game now, but we're going to find out this week. This game between the Lions and the Bills I'm super, super stoked about this one, man. Like this might be a Super Bowl preview, guys. It just might be.
It could
yeah,
be.
it's gonna be a great game.
I mean, Sean, the Bills are gonna have to play a lot better defense than they did on Sunday.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
don't
God,
think
they were
they're gonna be able
atrocious
to.
on Sunday.
A
You know
lot
what,
better
though?
defense than that.
The Niners play the Lions.
Validity to what they said going in, that the Bills went into that game overlooking the Rams because they were looking ahead to Detroit, because the Bills defense does not look that
Well-
atrocious.
Well, now the Bills are going to get their ass beat 2 weeks in a row because the Lions
not going to
are gonna
happen.
beat the shit
Not
out
going
of
to
them.
happen.
The
You
Niners,
think-
the
You
Niners
think the
play
Bills are
the
going to beat the
Lions.
Detroit?
You heard it here
in
first.
Detroit?
You heard it here first. Justin says the Lions are going to beat the shit out of the Bills.
I think
They
the
are
Bills-
going to beat the shit out of it. The
The
Lions are the best
Niners,
team in
the
football.
Niners play the
And they're at
Lions
home,
2
so-
weeks before the
What do you
season
consider
ends,
beat the shit
and I
out?
like-
2 touchdowns?
At least 8 points.
That's
7,
not
8.
beating the shit
No,
out.
it's going to be a
one-
dominant.
it's a
gonna be
one-score
dominant
game.
performance, but a one-score game.
All right, Kyle, who was your pick?
Jesus.
Hey, right now,
You're talking about
it's
from the
a
first show, Bernard, I have
one
no
and- it's
idea.
a one
No
and a
idea.
half point spread in Motown. So, but yes, I'm going on record. The
No, I
Buffalo
think it got
Bills
higher than that. But
are
Bernard,
beating the
Bernard,
Detroit
I
Lions
sincerely
this
don't
week.
remember my picks at all in any way, shape, or form. I have no idea. I think I had the
Who's your picks
Bengals.
now, Kyle?
I think I had the Bengals. I think I had the Bengals in the AFC Championship game.
You had the Bengals in the Super Bowl, so me and you both did.
Yeah.
That's not aging well at all.
No, that did not age well. The Bengals are not good.
No,
Who do I have now? Who do I have now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to stay with the Lions. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFL. I agree with Dustin 100%. I think they are the best. You saw it. They threw a game with 5 interceptions. They still won the game. They didn't play all that well against the Packers. They still won the football game. I think it's going to end up being. I'm with Sean. I think I'm going to go Detroit, Buffalo. And the only reason I'm doing that is probably because it's like subconsciously I don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again. The Chiefs are probably ultimately a better team, but any given Sunday, right? Josh Allen is the best player in the NFL this year. I mean, if you guys is anybody still debating that?
They will say Lamar.
Are we still debating that?
I already know that's coming.
You guys got to look at the overall record.
In my mouth.
You got to look at the overall.
Just said to you yesterday, Josh Allen is a better player than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. You got to look at the overall record, right? You got to look at the overall record. What are the Ravens? 8-6, 8-5.
Dustin, what was your?
Josh Allen's going to win the MVP, guys. That's
after yesterday. Yeah, it's not even after 6 touchdowns. He had the number 1 fantasy points in one play where he had the reception touchdown, whatever the hell that was, and then the very next day or the very next week, he has the most fantasy points in one game ever in the history of football.
But that being said, that defense is bad. We saw that yesterday, and that's going to stop them from going to the Super Bowl.
It hasn't been bad all year though. That's the problem.
Once they start playing real offenses, it's going to continue.
I mean, Justin, what you think of the Lions defense and the Bears the second half against the Bears?
It was good enough to win, but it wasn't great. Brandon, you had a question or no?
Yeah, he's asking you your Super Bowl prediction.
It's gone. Yeah,
that's what he's asking you.
Lions, Chiefs, guys. Lions, Chiefs.
Brandon, what's yours? You haven't said.
And I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Mine was initially. I remember. Mine was initially Baltimore, Philadelphia. I'm gonna go Lions, Chiefs. I'm not gonna be the smartest guy in the room here. It's just these two teams are just dominate. Well, the Chiefs are just resilient as hell, and the Lions are just dominating their opponents.
I'm gonna say this: don't overlook Philadelphia, man.
And I want to see those two play each other too.
Well, Philadelphia overlooked Carolina.
Lions Chiefs games have been awesome.
That tends to happen. So did the Chiefs. The Chiefs almost lost to them as well.
Yeah,
the Chiefs have almost lost to everybody, Sean.
That's true.
They would be 2-11 if you flipped the one score opposite game. They would be 2-11. They'd be the worst team.
It was 2-10, I think, right?
They've made every game close. Every single game they've played in has been a close football.
But I just feel like the Chiefs are going to continue to find ways to win those games.
I'm not disagreeing. They obviously are good at. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and they find ways to win.
Dennis Moody.
I am weary, Dustin.
Checking in with Strong here.
I am weary, Dustin. I mean, you take away, I know this if and buts or whatever you said, but you take away that punt block return. For
if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. You take away that punt return or that punt block return for a touchdown by the Rams yesterday, and Josh Allen put his team in position to win. He should have won that game. But ultimately, if you talk about the Chiefs Bills in the AFC, they made the AFC Championship game. If there's 2 minutes left in the game, the Chiefs are up by 2, and Josh Allen has the ball, I'm taking the Bills for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the Bills have already beaten the Chiefs this year. They need to get over that hump in the playoffs, though.
They're good in close games unless they're playing Josh Allen, and then
they need to get over that hump in the playoffs. The Bills cannot beat the Chiefs in the plaffs yet, so that's a problem.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see the Chiefs with Keon Coleman healthy, Amari Cooper up to speed, Shakir healthy, Dalton Kincaid healthy, James Cook healthy, Ray Davis.
Well, who are the defensive guys they're going to get back though?
They just got Matt Milano back. I think
that worked out really well for them.
I'm not counting Baltimore.
Give him a little time. He's a good player.
I'm not counting Baltimore out.
Yeah, no, Independent Aquaman had Baltimore in the Super Bowl against the Lions. I would not count them out either. No,
I'm not counting Pittsburgh out.
I will not count out Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh can be a contender, guys. Nobody wants to play the Steelers. None of these teams we just talked about want to play the Steelers.
No Browns and Buffalo.
Mike Tomlin is
the Bills do not want to play the Steelers. I guarantee you that. They got the same record, Sean. You know that, right?
Bills
the Steelers have just started to average like 30+ points.
Jameis Winston likes to play the Steelers when it's snowing. He likes playing the Steelers.
Jameis Winston likes to lick his fingers too. It's on live TV. It's very weird. Jameis Winston likes to do a lot of things.
You guys, I will say though, in that Browns Steelers game, that defense for the Steelers looks suspect for sure.
Dennis Moody says Bills Eagles.
They look suspect.
I was just looking at the.
So I think we all agree the last 4 teams remaining in the AFC will be the Steelers, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bills.
Yeah, I mean that's who else could you possibly put in there? I mean, Texans.
I mean,
Maybe,
you guys
guess.
too with the Steelers. The Steelers give up a lot of points defensively, man.
Yeah, that Browns game
I'm
in the
not-
snow, they give up.
Dude,
a
if
lot.
the Bengals win this game tonight, aren't they very much in a wild card spot?
Listen, I've counted the Bengals out so many times this year. If they make the playoffs, my mind will be blown.
Well,
My
Joe
mind will
Burrow
be
just
fucking
lit
blown.
fire, so that helps.
Yeah,
Joe
well,
Burrow is
they're
still one of the best.
down. They're
Yeah, I'd
tied
say
now with the Cowboys.
I'd say it's
Yeah.
going to be Eagles, Lions, and Chiefs, Bills. That's what I think it's going to be for the
That's
championship.
my final four.
You know,
That's
what
my
I
final
think.
four.
Championship games for sure.
And here,
Listen,
I'll be different than you guys. I'll take the Eagles Bills in the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna throw out the Steelers as an AFC championship team. The Steelers will be an AFC championship team against the Chiefs. That's what I'm saying.
Vernon,
And
you agree
then,
with
yeah,
that?
the Eagles. I like the Eagles.
Vernon, that's your pick. Or you be picking the Ravens?
What's that?
You're picking the Ravens or the Steelers against the Chiefs? You said the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, so who are you picking against them?
Oh man, either one of those teams. I think if the Steelers play the Ravens in the playoffs, the Steelers will eliminate
Well,
them.
you guys, we can come back to this. This isn't like
Yeah,
2 months. We can come back.
We're
to
gonna
this.
have to too.
So Dustin's saying Chiefs, Steelers, Lions, Eagles. Correct? Did I
I'll
get
say
right?
that. I'm with Dustin.
Yep.
I'm going to just throw because
Yep.
I think the Steelers would beat the Ravens in the playoffs if they played them for
Okay,
sure.
so you two are counting the Bills out early. Sean,
Guys.
because you guys like the Ravens too. So Sean has the Eagles, Lions, Bills, Chiefs, correct? And I agree with Sean, except for I'm going to take the Lions to go to the Super Bowl instead of the Eagles.
I got Lions, Chiefs. Yep.
I got Lions.
Mike
Bills.
Ross jumped in. We're an hour and 50 minutes in, Mike Ross. We have talked a lot of Bears, but he says another sad year where dudes on a Bears show are not talking about the Bears. It's a lot more fun to talk about these other teams. Let's be
we
honest.
beat it up.
Yeah, we talk about everything, Mike. Everything. We talk about the
But
NFL.
I'm having a lot more fun talking about this than I did this whole time we were talking about the Bears.
Is Mike Ross a new chat member?
Let's get that clap going. I've never seen the name
No.
before.
It's not a
He
new
was
chat.
he was here on Wednesday too.
Yes.
All right,
Yes,
let's
yes.
get the clap
What's going on,
going.
Mike?
He's new to Halas Hall. He's new to Halas
Let's
Hall
make
now.
your
And that's that.
acquaintance. Yeah, we have a standard.
This guy.
That's for you, Mike.
There it is.
Thanks for joining us, Mike Ross. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. You can go back and watch the show. We did talk Bears throughout this entire
we
show.
did.
A
Zach
lot of
makes-
things. We
Zach
talked the
makes
Bears
a-
recap of the game. We talked the
Strange.
coaching performance. We talked who's going to be the future head coach. We talked roster construction and where does Ryan Poles lie in terms of that, and is his future secure? A lot of things we touched on with the Bears, man. Go back and check it out.
Yeah, Ravens and Zach. He took it off the screen.
Oh my God! They just said it looks like Kenneth Walker is going to be unavailable for next week, which means they get another studly week out of Zach. Charbonnet.
Dude, I had Zach.
Storms,
And I
baby.
dropped him because I had Kenneth Walker. I didn't need him because Kenneth Walker was playing. But now, of course, going into the playoffs, it's going to happen.
There you go. There's Zach's picks. Bills,
Chiefs,
Chiefs,
Lions, Eagles. Okay.
Same as-
I mean,
same as-
it's all pretty chalk for us. Yeah,
same
that's
as-
all.
I mean, is there another team we're missing in the NFC that could possibly upset the Lions or the Eagles? Because I'm not seeing it.
The Vikings could be a sneaky team.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
They could.
Vernon
They just beat the shit out of the Falcons yesterday, man. Beat the shit.
Vernon loved the Packers coming into the season. Vernon, are you just
Packers
out?
are a team too.
Are you out on the Packers? You're out on the Packers.
The Packers suck.
The
Yeah,
Packers can be a sneaky competitive team in the playoffs.
I'm
Guys.
asking Vernon. Vernon, are you out on the
They're-
Packers?
I think their offense is going to compete with everybody and anybody. Their defense, to me, just it didn't. I don't know. The steps were
Yeah.
not taken that I thought would occur this season.
Can't stop the run. They
Their
can't stop the
secondary
run.
looks worse than it
Can't
did
stop the run.
last year, and they had a really good secondary last year.
Their
And they-
secondary's okay. They can't stop the
secondary's
run.
pretty
Man.
strong.
Yeah, but
They
they're
can't
worse
stop
than they
the
were
run.
last season. I think
Yeah,
last
because-
season their secondary was ranked first.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
Alexander hasn't played much, man. That's another part of the reason that.
Well,
they-
and that's becoming a pretty consistent thing as well.
It is.
Guys,
I
I'm
agree.
going to throw out a dark
agree.
horse contender in the NFC just
Hey,
for the sake.
really
Oh,
quick,
Jesus.
really quick.
Oh,
Niners.
come on. dude.
I was just gonna
They
say.
can turn around and win the division.
I was just gonna say on the Packers really quick. They're 1-3 versus teams over 500. They're a fluke block away from being 0-4 in the NFC North, and the only team they beat over 500, it was a 24-22 against the Houston Texans. I'm not buying in on the Packers.
And the Houston Texans didn't have Nico Collins, right?
and they didn't have Nico Collins because if they did, they probably lose that game in
Nico
Green
Collins
Bay.
is their best player.
If we're talking teams in the NFC that can compete with those top two teams, the Lions and the Eagles, it's the Vikings first, then it's the Packers. Those are the two.
I
teams.
will disagree on the Green Bay Packers.
Dustin
Well,
said
then
his
who
dark,
else?
wait, real quick. Dustin said his dark horse is the Niners. I'm gonna
Niners.
bet that. And Dustin, one of us is gonna be wrong, one of us is gonna be right. You know what
I'm
team
j-
is big?
I'm
You
kinda
know what team?
joking.
You know what team is becoming very, very good in the NFL that people are kind of just kind of ignoring?
Are you gonna say
The
the Buccaneers?
Buccaneers.
If the Rams are healthy,
Oh.
Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, if Tyler Higbee's coming back next week.
And that defense is playing pretty solid.
Yeah, if they're healthy, the Rams are
yesterday.
very good. They just beat the Bills. They're a very good football team. Something only 2 other teams could do, and the Rams did it.
Well,
So-
Kyle, this Thursday, the Rams play the Niners on Thursday Night Football. That's what will decide that whole conversation, because I don't think the Seahawks are winning this division. It's going to be the Rams or the Niners, and it starts on Thursday.
I don't want the Seahawks to win the division because they're just a guaranteed knockout. They're just
The Bears might.
we all
The
agree with
Bears.
that. They're
The
just-
Bears will have a
that's
chance. The Bears will have a chance to dictate that. I think. If
The
Seahawks-
Buccaneers are a team that's kind of they're
No, I think
frisky.
the Bears will decide whether or not the Seahawks win their division because the Bears.
The Bears are going to beat the Seahawks.
I'd be
Guys,
okay with the Bucks if their defense wasn't got off.
I was going to say, first of all, they give up the most touchdowns to quarterbacks. Second of all, you guys, I think Chris Godwin hurt the Bucks a lot more than most people think.
Oh,
I
definitely.
think that killed them because they
Have a good one, Kyle.
with Chris Godwin, they beat the hell.
Jalen McMillan caught a touchdown yesterday, though.
Caught
did?
two. He caught
No, he
two.
caught 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rookie.
But like Sean said, their secondary is absolutely horrendous.
That defense is brutal.
Yeah, that
Whoever wins the
Bears
NFC
not in?
South is probably playoff fodder. Whoever wins the NFC West could potentially be dangerous, like me and Kyle were just talking about. I think it comes down to the Rams and the Niners, and that game this Thursday will decide which
Justin,
direction.
where is that game?
I'm
It's
pretty
in San
sure
Francisco
it's
because
in San
the
Fran.
Rams. It's in San Francisco. The Rams beat the Niners in LA already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
well,
sure it's-
plus the Rams are just at home, so yeah, it would be weird.
So yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting
and
game this
guys,
Thursday.
and I
Very
was
That's gonna be
saying,
all. I can't wait. To
I
watch
was
that.
saying this too, guys. Nobody heard it. The Niners, a game 2 weeks before the end of the season, their second to last game is against the Lions. And I
Lions.
believe it's in San Francisco.
in
Is
San
that
Fran
game-
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
that game is gonna. Gamblers are gonna lose money. I think. That
Guys,
football
real quick,
game
I wanted to
really
just bring 2 things up before we get out of here.
That's
First of all, I'd like to say real quick, congratulations to Caleb Williams for setting yet another NFL record. Caleb Williams is the first quarterback, not rookie, just quarterback, playing quarterback in NFL history to go 7 games without an interception.
Throwing
So
an interception.
that's awesome for Caleb Williams. And then secondly, guys, I just found out yesterday that now Puka Nacua has the second most receiving yards in the history of the NFL in the amount of games that he's played. He's behind Justin Jefferson. Obviously, Justin Jefferson has the most receiving yards in the NFL history in his first whatever 20 games it is. Is Puka Nacua a top 10 player in the NFL?
It's a
No.
lot better than I thought he was. That's for sure.
I'd say top 20. I'd say top 20. He's a top 5 receiver for sure. He's a top 5 receiver the way it's looking.
He's
right.
amazing, dude. He's really he is absolutely amazing.
Dude, that
He's
catch
almost
he
on-
made,
yes,
that catch he made on the sideline that made Tom
catch.
Brady lose his mind.
dude, that
my
thing
God.
was amazing,
Oh my God.
dude.
Yeah,
Amazing.
like, how do you do that?
To me, you're
Amazing.
immediately
How do you
putting
do that?
like the first 5 positions of the top 10 players. To me, are quarterbacks. Man.
Independent Aquaman's
top
laying
5
it on
receiver.
thick. The Bears could win all their games the rest of the season. The Niners could.
Well, yeah.
upset
Plus,
my Lions.
independent Aquaman. Real quick, let me just make this clear on my stance on the Super Bowl picks. And
I think the Niners
if,
beat
if
the
the
Lions.
Niners, if
Aquaman.
the Niners don't have any injuries,
Yeah, let's go.
If the Niners don't have any injuries, would still be my Super Bowl favorite for the NFC. I mean, that goes without saying. When the Niners are healthy, they're the most dangerous team in the NFL.
They're a very talented team.
Christian
very well
Christian
coached.
McCaffrey alone, losing
Minnesota
Christian
State.
McCaffrey alone, losing Christian McCaffrey is absolutely
like
huge.
40% of your offense.
Huge.
And then Trent Williams, your best offensive lineman, and then Nick Bosa, your best defensive lineman, who
Your best
provides a lot of
receiver.
your pressure.
And
Yeah,
your-
it's just been a
and
crazy.
And your 2 backup middle linebackers are on IR, so you can't replace the one who's playing with a broken bone and is like,
And Brandon Ayuk.
I'm on this Niners train. They're gonna win this division. Brandon, your bet's gonna pay off, man. Niners are going
yeah.
to the fucking playoffs.
Oh, well, the Bucks got to win too.
And the
Dustin
Bears are
The
not.
Buccaneers
The
got to
Bears are-
win too.
Dustin,
the
if-
Bucks-
if,
Bucks
if the
got-
But the
Niners
Bucks have a really
if the Niners
soft
go to the
schedule.
playoffs, how far can they go?
The Niners could beat anybody on any given Sunday.
You are such a Niners fan, dude.
Breaking news: Bruce is with me though, so that's all that matters, Kyle. Okay.
Yeah, he's also a huge Niners fan. Just for everybody else listening. No, ultimately, guys, after this game yesterday, I mean, like Sean said, you look at these stats, it's just absolutely depressing. I mean, the fact that Juwan Jennings had 7 receptions for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, and George Kittle 6 receptions for 151 yards. I haven't seen the Bears that wide open, that defense play that poorly in a very long time. That was soul crushing for me personally. It just seems like they're going backwards every single week. And I think ultimately it was because Ryan Pohl's decision to retain Matt Eberflus. I think this team is better than we think it is. I think this team knows they're better than they are. I think this team is giving up a little bit. Ultimately, I think if the Bears could just win a couple games to end the season, I can look at them as one of those teams. We've talked about this before, and correct me if you guys think I'm mistaken. I could look at them as one of those teams that if they make the appropriate moves, get a couple offensive linemen, maybe 3, go get a good head coach. I think the Bears can be that team that you see one year and you're like, man, they're in every single game. They just lose a lot. They just lose too much, but they're in every game. They're competitive. But the next year they go in and they win 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, make the playoffs. I think the Bears are I still believe the Bears are capable of doing that solely because of Caleb Williams. Because of Caleb Williams.
Am I the only person on the root for losses at this point side of the fence?
No, yeah, let's get a good draft pick. Let's get a good draft pick.
Brandon,
Yeah,
I said this the other week.
2 wins or 2 losses won't change it much.
I said this the other week.
Change it enough.
I'm no longer concerned about individual outcomes of these games. It's all about player development for me. That's why I'm not pissed off that we got.
And it'd be nice to have like the 8th overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, like I'm pissed off at the effort the Bears put out
because you're getting a left tackle who's probably
the individual outcome of the game. Whatever. But you
also, I mean, the thing you should be most disappointed about from that game is the fact that Caleb Williams didn't look all that great. And I'm not saying he had a terrible game. Once again, he was 17 for 23 for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. But ultimately, if the Bears are going to lose games, all you should give a shit about is Caleb Williams starting to throw for 250, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Exactly.
The Niners yesterday, 321 passing. The Niners had 321 passing yards. The Bears had 94. Like that's not a good look.
There was one point in the game the Niners had 300 yards and we had
Bears had it was just a complete.
And by the way, guys, I know Romaduzzi had the 2 touchdowns, but once again, Mr. Old Reliable, as bad as that game was, DJ Moore again gets 6 receptions for 50 yards. I mean, it's not a great performance, but
definitely playing injured. Too.
Well, and he definitely is the consistent rock for the Chicago Bears. I mean, he is the guy for the Chicago Bears. He's the most important. He is consistently their best player on offense.
Guys, one more question. This organization will have to pitch themselves to the coaching candidates they like. Is Caleb Williams the only draw to be the head coach for this football team?
No,
he's the biggest. He's the biggest for sure.
Well, that's close without saying, yeah. But
here, can I say this?
I'm
just going to say this. Chicago Bears, the name, is the biggest draw.
No,
we're the charter franchise of the freaking NFL, and whoever can lead the resurgence of this team is going to be a god.
Just like Caleb Williams will be. Just like Caleb Williams will be.
And Vernon, I'd say for me personally, besides obviously Caleb Williams is the thing that's the string that ties everything together.
Nice,
but
ultimately, the Bears literally had 12 feet of offense in the first half.
Ultimately, Brandon, what I think is you look at the Bears defense for the first 10 weeks.
On top of
the Bears defense.
It's sadder when you measure it in feet. Sorry, Kyle.
The Bears had top 10 defense in the NFL for the first 10 weeks of the season. That fell apart once they lost faith in the coaching staff. Caleb Williams has had flashes looking great this year. They have Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ, and maybe Keenan Allen won't be here, I don't know, but I can't speak to that. They have DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet on their offense. I think the reason that this team would be the most attractive head coaching vacancy is because I think coaches who believe in themselves and think they're going to be a good coach in the NFL think they can come in here and win immediately. It's not going to be
that god.
Yeah. Like if you become the coach of the Raiders, you're like, all right, we got to go get our quarterback and all. Like the Bears, they're pretty close, man. That's what I was just talking about. I feel like this team could be the team next year that takes that next step. They're pretty close. They're closer than people think. I know it doesn't.
We thought it was this year though, but it's
not. So did I. I thought this year would be it. You know what? Shame on all of us because none of us like the head coach, none of us like the offensive line, none of us like the defensive line. And here we all are like, oh my god, how are we 4-9 at this point? Like we shouldn't have picked them to be a winning football.
Yeah, we tricked ourselves, guys. We tricked ourselves.
It was dumb. And you know,
wipe our credibility.
My fear now, guys, is that Ryan Poles is like a neutered GM. That's my fear. Like he's basically now, because they have lost so much faith in him for retaining Matt Eberflus, they're like, all right, now you're just the puppet on the strings, and we'll tell you what to do. That could ultimately destroy the Bears.
That cannot happen.
No, it can't because Caleb Williams will get out of here.
I think Kevin Warren has a different approach than that, man. I do. A lot of people are disliking Kevin Warren. I still haven't. seen
tell you
anything
this,
to
man.
make me dislike him.
The look on Ryan Pohl's face in that exit interview for Eberflus told me a lot. He was not a happy guy.
He looked
and
like a neutered
guy.
GM.
Well, he shouldn't have been happy. He
No,
shouldn't
he
have been
looked like-
happy.
he
He
looked-
just had to fire his head coach mid-season
Yeah,
because
but
his season was a
there
total
was-
disaster.
There
He
was
should not have
more
been happy.
to
The
it.
head coach he
There
decided to
was
keep.
more to it than that.
No, I mean,
I think.
listen, I wouldn't have had a smile on my face if I was Ryan Poles in that situation.
I wouldn't
know
have a
that.
smile on my face for the rest of the year.
Fuck no. You don't deserve one. You haven't earned
I'm
one.
just saying. I'm saying. I think there was a lot more to it than just Matt Eberflus being fired.
I guess that's harsh. That's a little harsh.
He's at
That's all
home.
I'm gonna
His
say.
wife's like,
Sean, that
"Baby,
may
you
be.
okay? You've
That may
been
be. We'll
different
never,
lately."
unfortunately, we'll never know. But there's just
My
we never
privilege
will.
to smile.
there's possibility.
But I will tell you this:
There's
big
a
time
fight at
Kevin
the dinner
Warren was
table.
protecting his ass the entire press conference. So
Well, you guys ultimately. So I think at the
River
end of the
Street
day,
Tavern, Ideal Amusements.
you guys,
Thanks, everybody.
is it fair to say that we all feel like it would be a good hire if it's either Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel? I think we'd all be happy either way. Like it wouldn't be
Yeah,
terrible.
I'd be more
wouldn't
happy if it
terrible.
was Vrabel, just like
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
Kyle,
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
honest with you. I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
the Brad Biggs. Kyle, I love the Brad Biggs report. I don't want Joe Brady on that list, but I do like. I mean, Mike Flores could Brad Flores could be a good head
You
coach.
guys, you know what's
never know.
crazy? You know what's crazy is I've read 3 different articles: Sports Mockery, ESPN, or Sports Center, and there was
He
another
had a
one.
winning record. No,
All
one
3
game.
articles, all 3 guys who wrote the articles said they all say Bears are making a very good list. This is a good list for the Chicago Bears that they've put together. All
Well,
4 of
they've
these
said that
guys could be
before.
good coaches.
They've
Yeah,
said
I know.
that before.
Yeah, I agree, but isn't it nice to see other people think the Bears are doing something
Hey, you
right?
know
Because
what?
usually people are like the Bears suck and they're doing everything wrong.
Well,
So
Joe
when they're
Brady
like,
on that
hey,
list is
why don't
not
we
as
ask Tua
concerning.
Tagovailoa what he thinks
Dustin-
of Brian Flores as his head coach?
Dustin, it's comparable to like when the Bears were when everybody was saying draft Caleb Williams, and the Bears are like, we are, and people are like, all right, that's the right move. Do that.
I want my franchise to make their decisions because they know it's what's in the best interest of their team, and they don't give a fuck what anyone outside of their
but
franchise
there's also
thinks.
reasons that those
That's
guys
how
are
I
all
want-
floating
that's
to
the
the top. Of
confidence
the,
I want for my
Yeah.
franchise.
But there's also reasons those guys are all floating to the top of the list because generally around the NFL, everybody respects them and believes they're smart.
Yeah, for sure. You don't need to
coaches.
overthink it. You don't
Yeah,
need to reinvent the wheel. You need to hire a good head coach here. You need
Like
to make,
Dustin, how many people were talking about Mark
but the
Trestman?
Bears need to do
How
that
many
regardless
people
of what's being
How many,
said on the
how many people
outside.
were talking about Mark Trestman when the Bears hired him? Nobody.
No, that was a complete zag.
Yeah.
That was a
How many,
zag.
how many
for
people were how many people were saying John Fox deserved another head coaching opportunity? Nobody.
A few people. That was actually louder than you're giving it credit
Dude, the
for.
Matt Eberflus
The one
thing
the one that
threw
was
me
the
off
loudest to
big
me is
time.
people.
That
A
was
lot of
so
people
left
liked Matt
field.
Nagy.
Yeah, Eberflus was out of nowhere, man.
I just didn't.
Yeah,
it
that-
just
that-
took
Hey,
me
Kyle,
so
who-
stone
Who was the
cold.
last
Like,
coach of
what?
the year for the Chicago Bears?
So last coach of the year,
For the Chicago Bears, yeah,
Matt Nagy.
he was.
Yep. He won, man, and Pace won Executive of the Year that same year.
And you know who won the
2018.
Coach of the Year the next year, right?
And Trubisky was a Pro Bowler.
It was Brian Dable at 9-7.
Yeah. And the Giants beat the Vikings in the playoffs that year. Yep.
So
Guys,
All right.
we've gone pretty long
Yeah.
here. We appreciate everybody in the chat. Independent Aquaman, Mike Ross. We had Kyle Harris, Breaking News Bruce, Zach Lipsy. We had Trax in here, man. We're about to be on CSP, Chicago Sports Podcast, right after this. Me and Brandon and Kyle's going to be doing a solo show. So head over there. Did I say Zach Lipsy? Did I say Dennis Moody? Everybody in the chat, man. Darius, by the way, thank you for joining us. Ant Mass.
absolutely.
Guys, make sure you all hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. Thank you so much.
Wait,
Don't
and you
forget,
guys,
don't forget next Monday, River Street Tavern. Come join us. Let's have a good time. At least we'll have each other to console if the Vikings do come up.
Yeah,
with
like
it.
yesterday, the Bears got their asses kicked, but we were all together and we were just having a good time, so
Having
it
a
didn't
great
really matter
time.
as much. If I was at home by myself, I would have been pretty depressed, probably.
real,
No, but I would have been happy because I'm a Niners fan. I was good either way.
real quick before we get out of here, guys, the bet is not looking so good, but there's still there's 6 minutes left in the second quarter. The Dallas Cowboys are winning 10-7. Vernon Joe Burrow already has 1 touchdown, so that's looking
We
good.
should have went with that Jamar Chase anytime touchdown.
Yeah,
What's wrong? What's wrong with Chase Brown?
He's got 4 rushes for 13 yards.
What?
All right.
Well,
Everything
they only
matters.
rushed him 4
Yeah,
times.
but he can catch a touchdown.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
but we did the rushing.
Sean, we should have done the over/under receiving and rushing because he has 2 catches for 21 yards. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would if we would have
Got a
done
long
that.
way to go.
We would have done that. he would have been
He's
over
got a
10.
long way to go.
Take it easy,
Bye,
Independent Aquaman. Thanks for joining us, man. Have a great rest of your night. Hit us up on CSP. We're about to be over there right away.
Here we go.
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
That'll
All right, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
We're wrapping this up.
Yep. Have a great night, everybody. Bear down.
Have a
Appreciate you
great
guys.
night. Bear down. Join us next Monday. We won't have a show because we'll have an early show. We'll have like a little show at River Street Tavern, but there won't be a show because we'll be watching Bears football.
All right.
Until next week, bear down, everybody. Love y'all. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.